Salutations, everyone. Welcome to the AOE podcast number 18, where I have my good friend Kiri here with me, and we're going to talk about all the live-action Disney movies, past, present, and the dreaded future that a lot of people have problems with. But yeah, we're going to cover all of them because we've seen them all, and I've seen them rather recently because I haven't seen most of them since I was a child. And Kiri is a connoisseur and knows them all front to back, no matter when she last saw them. Isn't that right?
Yes. Listen, sometimes they're memorable so that you don't have to watch them again.
This is true. Or we, just saw them in the last couple of years because they just came out. We're easy to remember. Outside of one that we'll get into that I forgot the instant it was over. So, we're going to go in chronological order, starting with 101 Dalmatians in 1996. I know you may be thinking, what about the live-action Jungle Book movie from 1994? We aren't going to cover that because they made another Jungle Book movie in 2016 that was more like the animated film, so that will be the one we are going to compare it to. Also, I didn't want to watch it, and I don't think Kiri's seen it in forever.
No, I don't even remember that one. I barely remember that exists.
Yeah, I didn't know until I saw it on Disney Plus.
I saw it and I thought about watching it and I was like, nah. The 2016 one wasn't enough, thank you very much.
I don't think it did well either. Okay, so 101 Dalmatians. Now, Dalmatians were a big thing for me as a kid. It was the first, I would say, like, movie that I was really into that I would watch a lot. Because Lion King hadn't come out yet and I was hyped out of my fucking mind for that movie. And I had Dalmatian coloring books. I had 101 Dalmatian toys. I had 101 Dalmatian Gigapet and socks and pajamas. And I recently watched the cartoon again because it's been a while. And Baby Me was right. That's a fucking good movie. It holds up better than almost all of the old ones.
I agree. It's such a fun movie. It's so good.
It's so well done. It's like it's still funny. It's still tense, in the tense parts, and it's just wonderfully made. Wonderfully made. It aged very well, and not all the old ones can say that. And then there's the live action, which I had to rewatch. But I remember a lot of it as I was going. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this because I watched it a lot as a kid. And it's obviously Glenn Close is the focus of the film throughout all the advertisements and everything. And she did a very memorable portrayal of Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, the perspective shift is fantastic because you then get to focus on a person. You get to pick an actor or an actress who really fits that role and then just focus on them being the character. And that's why I love those films.
Yeah, they didn't go like the normal route of animal movies during that time in the mid-90s where they have their mouths flap and they have a voiceover. They didn't do that in this film.
Thankfully.
And yeah, thankfully.
I was shuddering
very
as you were
smart.
describing that again, and I was like, yeah. Don't think.
Yeah, and yeah, also the cat is always the villain in those movies, and it's fucking bullshit.
Evil cat.
Yeah, it's because cats are smart and people fear smart people. That's how it is. That's why every villain is a doctor this or doctor that. The only good guy doctor we have is like Doctor Strange. Or at least ones that we call doctor. A lot of them have doctorates, sure. But yeah, it was they focused on the humans and not so much on the dogs, which you think would be weird because it's 101 Dalmatians, and that's pretty much the entire focus of the animated version. And the live, like we'll mention many times, the live action version fixes some of the things in the animated ones. But the perspective shift, I think, is such a big change that it makes it so much more different than some of the other live action adaptations that I think it definitely deserves to still exist on its own merit, just because it feels so much like a different movie, even though it's the same plot with the same characters.
Oh yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. It absolutely justifies its own existence. It's fine. It can stay where it
Yeah.
is. It's fine to exist. You still have both, and they're different enough that you don't feel like you're really watching the same film. You feel like you're watching two different takes on the same thing, which is what I enjoy it when it's like that.
Yeah, instead of just being a carbon copy shot for shot remake, which can theoretically look good, be acted well, but it's just not as interesting, and like it doesn't justify its own existence if you're not going to do anything different.
And
And
there's a
101
clear
Dalmatians,
drop in energy no matter the way you do it. So you have to
yes.
manage that drop in energy. So you can't, like, this one compensates obviously by having Glenn Close just kind of going a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs with it, but that's
Yeah.
what works because it's Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, she is I want to say this is the first time where a known story was retold with the focus on the villain. And she isn't like redeemed or any bullshit. She's just, like you said, she's just cuckoo. She's super over the top talking to Anita. It's like I'd be wearing your dog. Woof, woof. Ah! It's like she just went to 11 immediately and then stayed there.
Yes,
And
it's
and
the
that's
11.
what works.
Like the animation sits at a 12 because you can do whatever you want with it, and you can take it unrealistic places, and you can go wherever so that you really convey that energy. And you see Cartoon Cruella like really like flailing her arms around. She's almost like Mickey Mousing in terms of the animation, right? But then you can't do that with live action because well, you could if you wanted to manipulate it, but like a real person wouldn't be able to just suddenly extend their arms unless they were, what's his face, Mr. Fantastic. So,
Who's in
anime.
102
Yes,
Dalmatians?
yes, he is. So that's why he's relevant. But yes, so you have to like take something that's already at a 12 and bring it from 0 to 11 yourself.
Yeah, and so that was a very smart decision, and like it doesn't have the same kind of charm as the animated. Like Roger just seems like this kind of like sourpuss kind of guy, where in the animated he's hilarious, and you can see it's like, oh, these two are married, like with Roger and Anita. And watching the animated back, I was laughing because when Cruella comes by and he's just like, ugh. He goes upstairs and he's just like playing Cruella de Vil, and then he's just playing the trombone, and the wife's just like, ugh. I was like, I know he has to do this. I know he hates her, and I respect it, but like I also kind of wish he didn't do it, and that's what makes that scene so good.
He's venting it. He's like me, with just making a meme to vent it all out. He's just going up and he's just slamming on the piano, making a jingle.
Yeah,
He's just got to vent it somehow.
exactly. He was memeing it out back in whatever the 60s, and the live action is, it feels like a completely different tone with Roger and Anita, because first of all, Roger is played by Jeff Daniels, who is American and is playing an American living in the UK, and nobody mentions it the entire film, which is a little weird. As a kid, you don't notice it at all, but watching it as an adult, you're like, is she not gonna like, oh, you have an American accent? None of that. None of that. He's just there making video games, which is apparently only a job that you can do in the UK because America doesn't have video games.
But not even
we
a video
invented it.
game, just currently making FMVs and pretending that they're video games.
Yeah, even as a kid, I didn't like process it, but in my mind it was like, that's not a video game. That's just a cutscene. He's just making an animated film, because like it's all, the animation is like scripted, like you would see in like a Dragon's Lair or something like that. But like that's the entire thing. You don't see a UI. He's not on a controller or doing anything. He just types in a bunch of code and out pops a cinematic, like hand-drawn 2D animation via the style of the original 101 Dalmatian cartoon. And it's, you could get away with that back in the day because no one knew how video games worked, or back in the days, like, oh, look at me, I'm hacking, I'm just typing really fast. I'm like, I'm in. It was the same kind of same kind of thing. So you could get away with that because people didn't really know how things worked. So there was like nobody questioning it, I guess. But
yeah, it's really funny, honestly, just being like, listen, that's not even a concept for my guy.
Yeah, and he also needs the approval of like a 7-year-old because he's really good at predicting what video games will do well, which is that's a very kids movie thing to have, where it's like some super
market is all like your target market is automatically the stakeholder.
Yes, you have to. Your 7-year-old is your boss. So it's like, yeah, kid. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, the kids will eat that shit up. Didn't really care. I was in it for the puppies, and obviously, Cruella and her performance.
Yeah, and it's very much that Cruella's done really well, and every other human character is done incredibly weirdly. I think that's really what it is. So they put all their energy into Cruella, and then everybody else is almost kind of like an afterthought, where they just kind of have to be there for the vehicle of the story. Like Cruella is the plot, to be honest. Even in the original, Cruella's still really the plot. The puppies and how many they have is just kind of like a incidents, but Cruella is really the plot in both times. But they don't really bother doing anything with the other humans in the live action one, with maybe the exception of Jasper and Horace a little bit, but like everyone else just kind of like weirdly there.
Yeah, and then you have the butcher to like, the Skinner. Sorry, yes, to
Mr. Skinner.
I guess to add another evil phase, or to like to distribute the evil, so it's not a concentrated amount of people doing evil things. It's like, oh, this is 4 evil people doing evil things as opposed to 1 or 3. So. And
then that continued into the second one.
Yes, absolutely, with the Frenchman or whatever the hell his name was. Already forgotten now. He's forgettable.
It's like you can see him in your face, and you see him in your head, and you're like, yep, that's the guy. Jean-Pierre, John something.
Yeah, probably Jean-Pierre. Sure, why not? Why not? But the live action is actually even without Cruella being at an 11, it's still like way less believable than the cartoon, almost, because of how weird all the humans are. Like the meet cute that Roger and Anita have is so weird in the live action. It's like the worst meet cute ever, because he mistakes her dog for Pongo and tries to put a leash and take her away. And she's like, that's my dog. He's like, you're crazy, lady. And knowing full well she has a purse full of bricks, hits him with it. And is like scolding him for like, oh, you shouldn't be swimming in this lake. It's awful. And he's like, oh yeah, thanks for the tip. She's like, yeah, you must be an idiot. It's like, what's going on? How is this working romantically?
Listen,
but then they
it's 90s England, all right? Sometimes that's how it be, all right? You have to protect yourselves. I respect the bricks in a bag. I don't really respect still whacking him with it, knowing that you have that in there. But a lady has the right to have a bunch of bricks in her bag for no real good reason.
I want to agree with that, but in the movie, she was picking up loose bricks because she's like repaving her garden or something. It wasn't for self-defense. She just happened to have them.
Maybe she just has OCD and she was just, just like going out to work and she had the backpack on and she's just like, I'm just gonna have to pick that up. Like right now, I'm just take it with me. But like that would also make your bike ride a lot more uncomfortable. So like,
those bricks are heavy.
It is weird. It is absolutely weird.
Maybe Jeff Daniels just has a liner in all of his roles where he has to be physically abused. That might be a thing. I don't know. But regardless, both the live action and the cartoon are good, and they both should exist and aren't problematic or like, they age perfectly well. They're both still good for kids of all ages, and I think they're both great. I honestly still think that they're both great, especially the originally animated. But I mean, obviously, if you don't have Glenn Close as Cruella, it might not work. But she just makes it work. She was dedicated to the craft.
And that's why it's good that she is still a producer. I think she's executive producer on the new one. So at least she's still involved. It's not like, they're just trying to do it completely without her. She is at least involved.
Yeah, and the live action makes some good changes. Instead of her and Anita being school chums, which doesn't make sense because Anita's like a normal age person and Cruella's a 1,000-year-old mantis woman. Anita works for her fashion company, and that's how she learns that she has dogs, and she gets mad because she leaves her so she can go get married, which is her choice, sure. And they didn't seem to be struggling for money, even though his song is a success and they become, very well off in the cartoon. In the live action, it's like he is a working game developer and then sells what they think will be a good game at the end of the film. So it's a better message of just like work hard and make a good villain in your video game, as opposed to hope you get lucky by making a meme song and it going crazy off the radio a month later.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And that brings us to, because they couldn't let that go. They had to go for the sequel money, live action, still in theaters, 102 Dalmatians. They still kept Glenn Close, which is what you needed to do, but then completely different other humans outside of her gal Friday that is just constantly abused, but still wants her admiration. I don't know.
Alonzo?
Alonzo, yeah. It's like he's complicit in everything, but at the end he's like, yeah, I'm glad that all the puppies are safe or whatever, and I'm a good guy.
Yeah, Alonzo definitely has that vibes of like, my family has always served you, and I'm just kind of, the last or the latest in that line. And like, that's just how we live our lives. But like, I don't don't know that that's how we should live our lives, but it's how we do live our lives.
Yeah, and he's like almost like he's like neutered. He's a squib. Like Cruella's the fucking awesome witch, and he doesn't have any magical powers, so he just serves her. I don't know, but
I think they really just kind of needed somebody to just turn around and kind of help the heroes in that final, like right near the end, where they just kind of needed something to get Chloe and then the puppies out of both situations at the end. They're like, well, if Alonzo's there, he can do it.
Yeah. I mean, for the movie it works, but his character existing is just a little. It's like, what's the backstory there? That's the movie I actually want to see. But like, while the first live action was written by John Hughes, oddly enough, the second one had 4 writers, so it was a bit of a mess. And you have the thing that I don't get is that, so Cruella's been rehabilitated and she gets this success story, which shouldn't have flown. Like, the press and the public shouldn't be like, oh yay, Cruella, the one who tried to kill all the puppies, like the most evil thing you can do as a human for like a headline on newspapers, like lady tries to kill baby puppies. I don't understand how like that redemption story in that universe is supposed to be something people can cheer for.
Thinking on it, I think it was totally something that they were just like, okay, we need a really, 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 really big news day. What would get the views? Reformist. Just this really big figure who clearly had a really good fashion company, in the first one. So, and she is, an heiress, so she has a lot of money, and she comes from a really well-known family. She had a really good fashion company. So I feel like they really just needed to use it as a like, okay, but if we report on how she's turned her life around, but is still, got that big money to be a really big like patron entrepreneur, then maybe that money will start coming our way. Like, I was thinking on it, I'm like, this has to completely be a press thing, all in together of like the media just all being like, look at her now though. Like, don't you like her now that she's been reformed? Look though.
But you know what the story should have been? The story should have been Mr. Pavlov, which is because that's the only scientist name they could think of. It's like he was able to rehabilitate her and also have like a all the predators and prey animals like be nice with each other. It's like, that's your story. The scientific breakthrough, sure, the Big Ben bell ruins it magically, but that's the story, not Cruella saving a freaking pet store from going over. Yeah. That's what the story should have been.
Yeah.
As far as the press goes. I mean, and I mean, maybe he didn't like show that he got this lion and a pheasant to be friends or whatever the hell it was. But there should have been some explanation for how Cruella was rehabilitated, because otherwise there's no reason to trust her. If you're like, oh, there was a miracle cure, you could be at least think the miracle cure worked, because you see the results right in front of you, right?
Yeah. It's very, very weird in the entirety. And I feel like they probably also, you know how the new Lady in the Tramp, which we'll get to, you know how that was entirely like, okay, we're going to use shelter dogs, you know? I feel like they kind of took that criticism of the first one with everything, with, you know, like how Dalmatians were constantly being bought and bred, and it was a really big problem immediately after the first one. They're like, okay, but like dog shelters, you know, and like really just trying to be like, okay, but like there's other dogs around Dalmatians, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, but that makes sense, because that happens every time with a kids movie with an animal in it. Then that generation of kids want that animal, and then they don't know how to deal with it, or it's like it's not what they expected. Like when Finding Nemo came out, a whole bunch of clownfish died because people didn't know how to take care of saltwater fish.
Yes. So I feel like it was a lot of that pushback of, you know, you guys are just promoting, you know, you're basically setting up the Dalmatians to go down the same route that we've had, you know, with every other type of movie that's done this. And they're like, okay, no, we need to push back against that. What can we do? Oh, okay, we're gonna center it around a shelter.
Yes. That has a parrot voiced by Eric Idle that thinks it's a dog. Which is, by the way, the star of the fucking movie. Waddlesworth is the GOAT. That is such a good acting parrot that it's like, he hit his spots, and he's clearly opening, I forgot if it's in the movie it's a boy, but Poncho is the name of the actual parrot.
Yeah, she's
she's female. So I was so impressed with Waddlesworth and Poncho's performance of Waddlesworth that I had to look this parrot up, because I was wondering, it's a parrot, it could still be alive. And she was already like 80 something, like 87 when they shot 102 Dalmatians, and she was I think an American parrot, or at least she was used in America, and they had to boat her over to shoot 102 Dalmatians, and by the time it was done, she was deemed too old and frail to travel back, so they just donated her to a pet shelter in the UK, but because like they knew a family member over there. And as far as I can tell, as of what was it, like 2018, Poncho is still alive and is the oldest parrot in the world, by the way. If she's still alive, I think she's 102. And you know what? Good for her.
Yes.
If you've seen a parrot in a movie or a TV show or a commercial in the past from 1930 to 2000, it's Poncho every single freaking time. If you see a red-tailed macaw, it's Poncho. Like, she was the parrot that you get for Ace Ventura, or for I forgot what the other movie that had her in it, but
Dr. Dolittle?
Poncho. Yes, Dr. Dolittle. Thank you, Dr. Dolittle. Yes, still Poncho every time, and awesome parrot. I think she even inspired her new owners to write a book about her, or they allowed somebody to use Poncho as the subject of their book, and I think it raised money for charity or something. So yeah, Waddlesworth is amazing. We stan Poncho, the parrot. 102 Dalmatians, otherwise quite forgettable, I would say.
Yeah, I remember the main two getting married as a result of meeting on the set. Like, that's the thing I remember most about this film, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm sure they don't regret it.
Oh, nope, I'm very happy for them. It's very cute.
Yes, it is. It's always cute when they meet on a movie, especially if it's like not like a huge movie, like something that doesn't do incredibly well. But there didn't need to be a sequel, but the fact that there was is fine, because it's like 100% new story, even though it's still based off of the same book from 1961, with only Dipstick is like the same, is in both movies outside of Cruella and her manservant.
Yes.
So let's move on to 2010. So they took a 10-year hiatus for live action adaptations. They only did Dalmatians and the failed Jungle Book that nobody remembers. Alice in Wonderland. And that shit made $1 billion. And I have to question why. Can you tell me why, Kiri? It made $1 billion?
Because it had Tim Burton's name on it.
Because it had Tim Burton's name on it, they can sell it to Hot Topic. That's the only reason I can think. Because it's not a good live action or animated, in my opinion.
I don't like it either. I actively try and forget everything that I don't. Alice in Wonderland is such a weird property to begin with that I don't think I've liked any adaptation or version of it ever. And I definitely, the live action ones are definitely my least favorite.
Yeah. I read the book in 8th grade, and I also read the Jabberwocky poem. And the Jabberwocky was actually originally supposed to be in the original animated version, so it's kind of a shout out that they had it in the live action. Because that thing was in production forever at Walt Disney. And Walt Disney had a huge control over that film, and it flopped so hard that he pretended he had nothing to do with it. But when, it would see it on TV, and then eventually VHS releases when it became popular. Because when it came out in theaters, it was a total flop. Nobody liked it, didn't get good reviews, wasn't even like a cult hit, wasn't even like a cult success, only until like it started coming out on television, and VHS did it become popular and sell a bunch of merchandise with the Cheshire Cat's fucking face on it.
I don't think I actually saw it until after playing Kingdom Hearts 1, and I went, well, I want to see the original. And then I watched the original and was like, you know what? I think I was actually good beforehand. I don't think I needed to know the preceding movie to this world. I think I was good.
Yeah, and I watched the cartoon a lot as a kid, and I hadn't seen it for 20 some odd years, so I rewatched the cartoon, and it's like, I think I enjoy it even less as an adult, and I didn't really like it as a kid. Because I know people was like, oh, that's the point, but it just feels so disjointed, because the animated took things from the first book, Alice in Wonderland, and Through the Looking Glass, and just mashed it. Like, they took the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts and turned it into one character. And they took the Tweedles, who are only in Looking Glass, and put it in the original, but they're there for like 4 seconds, and I still hated them as a kid. I don't know what, it's like the design or something, and the live action did them no justice by making them look like freaking creepy weirdo CGI gone horribly wrong, even though that's as good as you can do with a giant faced, plumpy, dumpy CGI twin human-esque type of thing.
It's like such a mess that I don't even have anything to say about it that could do it any justice of the description of how I feel about it. It's like, I don't like it, and I don't like the live action one because it didn't do any improvements to it, in my opinion. It was a completely different take.
Yes, it was a completely different take. We'll have to give it that.
We do give it that. It is a completely different take, but I don't like either take.
Right, because it's not essentially a live action remake. It's a live action
straight up adaptation of the book.
Sequel reboot?
Yeah.
Because it's her coming back to Wonderland, or it's actually Underland, which is like a throwaway line in the trailer that you think is going to be important. It's like, oh, when you were here, when you were a kid, you called it Wonderland, fucking idiot.
Anything.
And there's no reason for it to be called Underland.
Anything that takes either Alice in Wonderland or The Wizard of Oz, and then they go, it's not actually called Oz, or it's not actually called Wonder, and it changes it, just makes me roll my eyes immediately.
Oh, yeah. It's, I mean, at least Alice has something to do in the live action, because in the cartoon, her sister's trying to teach her how to read or whatever. She follows the rabbit, falls down the hole, goes through all the shenanigans, off with her head, and then she escapes. In the live action, at least she gets the armor and the Vorpal sword and kills the Jabberwocky, which has no suspense because you see it in the fucking scrolls. Like, this is what has to happen. Here's Alice. It has to be her wearing this armor with the Vorpal sword on this exact spot, killing the Jabberwocky, and that's exactly how it plays out. So there's no...
Yeah, like they added in a prophecy chosen one, but also, Civil War plot to the entire thing. And it's like, that does it no favors at all. Any of that being added in. 0 favors.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. And then they also made it like Wizard of Oz, because she goes back to the real world and it's like, oh, you're just a parallel of this character in Underland, when it's like, that's not even in the original book or animated. It felt like really weirdly shoehorned in.
The weird parallel between Tweedledum and Tweedledee and the two twins, the girls that are at the beach, I was like, that's really... that's a
They're
bit
just
of a
both
stretch.
twins.
They're
It's a huge.
just
Like,
twins.
you remind me of these two little boys I met once. It's like, how? The only thing we know about them is that they swim naked in someone's freaking lake. That's the only thing we know.
Now they look okay. So if you swim naked in a lake and you happen to be twins, you now apparently look like you're a downsized toddler version of a circus strongman. Like that stereotypical.
Yes. Oh my God, you're so right. You're so right.
It's like, what? Wait, what do you mean? Like, if the twins in the real world had been little boys, like two little toddler boys running around, and they would just kind of, just kind of in awe of everything and just kind of be like, like, twin, look at this, twin, look at that. Then I would have been like, yeah, okay, it's a bit stupid, but yeah, whatever. At least that kind of lines up. But just being like, hey, you two girls, I barely know anything about. You are now. It's like, what, Nani?
Yeah, and they also go for the weird. It's just like, oh, I'm going to be, betrothed to this ugly guy, because you're always betrothed to an ugly guy who like picks his nose and fucking eats the booger or whatever. In every movie, that's everyone you're never betrothed to fucking Orlando Bloom. That never happens. And so she's like, I don't want to get married. So she runs off, falls down the hole, follows the rabbit, and they have the tea party. It's like, oh, Alice, you're back. You're not my Alice. It's like, you're not the real Alice, which is such a weird thing. It's like, oh, that's not our Alice. It wasn't even like, oh, no, she's grown up and she's different. It's like, no, she's not. It's like, you're missing your muchness. That was...
She was a little girl the last time you saw her. Of course, she does not have this. She's not a little bright-eyed little kid who still has both parents. She lost a parent, and it really, really deeply affected her. Of course, she is not the same. That annoys me. That really annoys me. Like, having to remember that happens just makes
Disney
me mad.
got their hands on it and is like, guess what? You're losing a parent. Get fucked. Get Disney, you fucking princess. And I can say that because she's a princess in Kingdom Hearts.
You only even had a sister to begin with, but now you don't even have a sister. You just have one parent.
Well, she has an older sister, and her husband's cheating on her.
You're right.
Yeah.
Like the first 5 minutes is see? It doesn't matter to the entire movie. It's just something that happens. It's just something that happens in the filler time until we're in Wonderland.
And then she pops out and she's like, I know about international trade routes now. Let's go to China. Like, fucking what? How does killing a giant dragon thing make you all of a sudden a genius at international shipping routes in Victorian times?
You know what? I think maybe when that dragon went poof, maybe it released some spores into the air, these knowledge spores, and then she breathed it all in, and then she went back high as fuck with that knowledge.
It's like it's such a disingenuous giving agency to a female character kind of a thing. It's like, see what we're doing? Look, see, Alice, she's gonna be a pirate or whatever the fuck.
They kind of act like her having no interest in marriage is also like a really big step, and it's like she was a kid in the first place. Like, what? There was no. Why?
I'll give the live action this. They actually casted like an 18-year-old to play an 18-year-old.
They did. The bare minimum bar was met on that one.
Yeah. So it wasn't an 18-year-old to play a 15-year-old, or like you're supposed to believe that the character is I don't know.
I'm a 30-year-old, but I am definitely in high school.
Yeah, and I know magic, and I'm also a vampire, and also I'm gonna play a teenager in another TV show 10 years from now, and it'll be fine. So, you know what? I'm almost 30. I'm almost old enough to play a teenager on a TV show now.
Finally,
so,
your time is it's steadily approaching.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Everyone, catch me on the CW in 2022.
Yes, I support this.
So
you can be the new Noah Century something. What is whatever his name is. He's very nice. He's a very sweet person. I just never remember what his last name is. But I just remember his name is Noah, and he's in like nearly everything that's like, that classic high school thing at the moment. It's just like Noah. Like every single time it's like, does this man ever sleep? Or does he just live on a TV set?
Is that the kid from Perks of Being a Wallflower?
Probably.
Okay. Well, we'll look it up later and be like, whoa, we were wrong. Or, yeah, we were right. So, we both agree that both versions are bad, but at least they're different stories.
Yes.
Kind of. Even though they try to make... Because, like, the live action's like a sequel / reboot. So, because they try to hit the same beats, but, like, she's older and returning, and there's a prophecy. Because there has to be. There always has to be. So... that brings us to Maleficent 2014, the first in what I assume is going to be a long line of female villain gets her redemption storylines, which are super popular. Obviously, you have, Wicked did that whole thing, and Maleficent, I think, was definitely riding on those coattails. But I don't like it specifically for her because she's the Disney villain. Like, it doesn't matter, male, female, she is the epitome of Disney villain. She's literally on, and I even looked it up to make it sure I was right. She is Boardwalk on Disney villains Monopoly. She's the main antagonist, Disney-wise, in Kingdom Hearts. In the freaking Fantasmic shows in Disneyland, Maleficent's the villain. So it's like, why is this the villain that we're redeeming when she is like the villain? It takes away what's interesting about her.
Yes, it does. And the hoops that they have to jump through to change her to be redeemed, just, it's like, why would you bother then? You're doing so much work to reverse engineer it when you could have just done a movie with her, or even a series of her just reveling in being evil, rather than having to do all of this like roundabout way of being like, okay, yeah, well, that was pretty bad, but she's not actually evil, like she still cursed that baby for somebody else doing something else to her, but like,
yeah, she didn't curse the king.
She didn't curse Stefan. She just waited for a child to be born and then turned up and was like, okay, well, we can't really have her curse her for death again, so just a really big long coma, just a forever coma.
Yeah, a forever coma, which is totally different from death, even though it's not.
Yeah, she still says that she will lie in a like death-like state, and it's like
it's
little to no difference.
Yeah, she's just a vegetable at that point, just the brain dead vegetable, and it's like, that's better. It's like for those of you who have not seen Maleficent, she gets betrayed by the boy that she likes, who's just a normal human, and she's some fairy thing, but the only one of her kind in the first movie. And the king is like, this evil Maleficent bitch, somebody kill her and I'll make you the next kings. And so he takes iron, which is her weakness, because they give her weakness, sure, whatever, that's fine.
Typical
and he
fairy
cuts
thing.
And he uses iron or chains or whatever, cuts her wings off, and be like, see, I killed her, even though he didn't, because like he actually did care about her, so he didn't want to kill her, but he cared about being a rich king more because villain got a villain somehow.
Human. It's the greed and selfishness of humans.
Yes, yeah, fucking humans, yeah.
Humans, we suck.
We suck, and it's always like the British/American like version of humanity that's always being represented when it comes to like elves and dwarves and orcs, and it's like, oh, then there's humans, but it's like it's always like the Western Anglo-Saxon type. And so so then he becomes king, and her revenge is to wait for him to knock some broad up and then curse the daughter, which is, I mean, sure, you need to have the same plot, I guess, if you want to tell the same story, but you're also telling a completely different story with a different villain and a different hero. And the fairies are 100 times more annoying in the live action than the cartoon.
Because you have to change them so that then you can have Maleficent become Aurora's mother, so that you can turn it around and be like, she ended up raising her, so you have to then make the previously, inexperienced but ultimately pretty competent fairy godmother archetype in the Three Fairies, and then change them so that they're bumbling and completely incompetent to force Maleficent into looking after Aurora. It can't be a natural progression. It has to be, well, if Maleficent doesn't do it, then the baby that she cursed to pretty much die is gonna die. And she can't let that happen, can she?
No, she can't. So it's a different telling, but it's kind of old that, I mean, even with stories that haven't been told before, the villain just always has to be redeemed, and it's like there can't ever just be a villain anymore, apparently, unless it was a previously a villain, then gets redeemed, but the person they're facing is actually a villain. They don't get redeemed. So because like
a puppet master pulling the string.
And so like it is a different story. It doesn't like hit the exact same beats and is not even like the same story told differently. It's a reimagining of a story. But I guess it's kind of hard to say that it's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, because then like Mistress of Evil also kind of takes part of the original and takes the parts that the Maleficent didn't use, and it uses those parts.
Yes.
So I guess it justifies its own existence, and we haven't talked a lot about the original. We talked about every princess at length in the Princess Podcast, which is the most popular podcast on the channel, by the way, if you want to check that out, where we rank all the Disney princesses. I consider Sleeping Beauty, as well as Cinderella and Snow White, the first three, the do-nothing bitches, because those are the princesses that do nothing in their story. Everything happens to them. So I think they're the worst three. Obviously, they're super famous and popular, and the people love them because they're the first three, and they've been around a long time, and kids will get attached or whatever. But the original Sleeping Beauty story, what it has going for it is Maleficent being the evil villain dragon thing, and Prince Philip, being a completely bland blank slate dude with a sword and a shield fighting. And then, obviously, you have, the comatose girl coming back to life, because that's what they always have to be, either comatose or talking to mice. I don't know. And there's a writer in their contract of the first three princesses where they don't have to do anything in their own stories. But as far as like Aurora was represented, it's different because she's like not the focus of the movie pretty much at all.
Yeah, like
She
I adore the original on every level, particularly the animation and the art aspect. I really adore the originals.
and the music's pretty good as well.
I love the original. I will rewatch the original all the time. Um, but Aurora didn't really. She has like little bits of personality for like the 12 minutes that she's awake and functioning.
Yeah.
But they didn't really give her a chance to be a person. So then in Maleficent they do, but because it's from Maleficent's point of view, you only kind of see Aurora when the plot really needs to happen, or they need to kind of like re-emphasize the mother-daughter bond that those two end up with. So she's more of a plot device
Yeah,
than anything else.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
she's always kind of been a plot device, but it doesn't feel like it as much in the original, whereas it really does here.
Yeah. And that has to do with, the story being shifted in its focus. And so it's fine. I think that the second one is better than the first one as far as the Maleficents go. Not that either's fantastic or absolute garbage. I just feel story-wise it's kind of a little superior and less forgettable than the original. Although the second kind of does this, and we'll get to the second, where it's just like, oh, she's the villain. It's like, oh, she's not the villain. And then the second was like, but they still think she's the villain. It's like, fucking why? It's just so you can name it Mistress is Evil. That's the only That's the only reason why it's called that.
Yeah.
Because like at the beginning of the movie, it's like, and Maleficent was actually the hero of the story, but in this kingdom, they didn't read that part of the book, so they think she's still bad. It's like,
This
cool.
kingdom over
So the
here
first
is
movie
still on the
doesn't
whole,
matter at all.
Yeah, like this kingdom over here is still on the whole. She curses the baby part, and to be fair, that is a pretty big stickler.
Yeah.
It's like Corella tried to murder a whole bunch of puppies, and Maleficent cursed the baby to die. So like, and then the sequels are both just kind of like, okay, but like, it's fine. It's like, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Is it though? Yeah.
So while it's not a complete,
they're both fine.
They're both fine.
I will watch both of them again. But it's like,
yeah.
I'd rather watch the original, to be honest.
I would rather watch the original Sleeping Beauty than watch Maleficent. Maleficent does not have the repeatability that Sleeping Beauty still has. And that brings us to 2015's Kenneth Branagh masterpiece, Cinderella, which is the first of the live actions that is just a shot-for-shot remake where basically nothing changes and everything's in the same order and it's the same story with the same characters doing the same stuff, except there's no talking mice, which, if you haven't seen the original in a while, is most of the movie, is the talking mice. So they have to pad the time in the live action, which is still only like an hour.
Feels like so much longer when you're watching it. Oh, I did rewatch this one for this one because I've seen it and I remember it because I don't really like it. I was like, okay, I'll rewatch it because I'm sure there's little bits that I've probably forgotten that will, they're probably a little bit important. No, because it's such a shot-for-shot remake. Nah. It's not like there's a perspective shift.
No.
It tries to give both Cinderella and Charming more character and more personality, but it only ends up doing favors for Charming and the King as well.
Yeah.
The Duke gets less personality because they try to just make him into a villain, or like a side plot villain. So the Duke has less of a than the Roshic trying to keep his king happy, which is almost a bit more interesting to me personally than the whole but my alliance is kind of like like my alliance with Spain. That's not really Spain, but like it's pretty much Spain. But
yeah, it's Spain and Ever After.
Yes,
which is the superior and greatest live action adaptation of any story Disney has told.
Honestly, just go play Alice, American McGee's Alice, and then watch Ever After. Both of these two. Just dodge around it. Go for other media. But and then Cinderella, they tried to give her more agency and be like, she's really like, she's not trapped in the house the entire time. She can go and do other stuff. And then it just really creates a problem like, okay, well then why doesn't she just
just leave?
Like, you're not really giving her a point to go back to the house. You're just being like, well, she can leave at any time she likes, but she'll still stay here. And she has a breakdown much earlier in the story, and it makes the fairy godmother coming in not feel like it was right at her breaking point. She kind of has that breaking point immediately, and then has to have a second breakdown point, but it doesn't feel as powerful because she's already had a breakdown moment.
But don't forget, she had some milk in the back garden at night for who the fuck knows what reason.
Just, just in case the little old lady came around and was like, may I have some milk?
It's like, yes, it's fucking 10 o'clock at night in the back garden. I happen to have a full pitcher of milk right here. We don't have refrigerators. It's in the back garden. Who the fuck would have it here? And it's like 10 at night because we know midnight strikes when the ball ends. So it's got to be like later than 6.
Nasty.
Yeah.
But yeah, they try to have Cinderella and the prince meet so that they have a bit more time. So he doesn't quite have the same face syndrome thing of being like, I'm looking for the girl that I danced with, but I don't know where she came from, rather than I have no clue who she is altogether.
We spent all night together and never even got her name. It's like, cool, Charming, cool.
Fair, she didn't figure out who's the prince either. Neither of them were asking questions. To be fair, both of them were just like, "Oh, I'm just having this lovely time with a stranger. I don't think to ask details."
And they could have made it so much better if they just took from the book a little bit. Where there's multiple nights where they meet at the castle and dance and she gets away. And that's why he sets tar or whatever on the steps so he can stop her, but it only gets the glass slipper. It's like they only had to do a little bit more to make it better than the original. But it just falls flat because you're retelling a shot-for-shot remake of a not-so-great story.
And stepmother is inherently weaker because it's not that she's evil just because she's a bit of a bitch. It's that she becomes a bit of a bitch because she overhears part of a conversation and thinks that she isn't wanted by the dad. She entirely just comes to think, oh, okay, he only misses his wife. He doesn't like me in any way. Where it's actually like, no, I really like her stepmother, but of course I do miss your mother because of course I would. I'm a widow. Of course I'm going to miss your mother. But it doesn't mean I don't like your stepmother. But of course from stepmother's point of view, it's just, oh, he only likes his daughter. Therefore, I'm going to make her life miserable. And that entirely weakens her. And then she has this monologue when she finds the glass slipper and she's like, which she had no reason to do.
There's no reason for her to find that glass slipper. It's under a floorboard.
She just pulls up a random floorboard and is like, oh, looky what I have here. I had no reason to do this, but whatever. And she just sits there and she starts monologuing about how she really wanted a really good life. And all about her life didn't go the way that she wanted it and how she planned it out. And she's very jealous that Cinderella is really pretty and is probably going to get a much better life than what stepmother would have ever had. And she just starts monologuing rather than just having the slipper or just locking her up in the room and saying nearly nothing, which is much scarier because you don't know what that person's thinking. The moment that they sit there and they're like, okay, but let's talk about what stepmother's thinking in the entirety, is like, I don't need to or want to know that. And the reaction from Cinderella is just to be like, I'm trapped up here and I might never be let out. And I don't have any food. I don't have any water. I'm just stuck up here with the animals. But you know what? My mother told me, my mother told me to always be kind and always be happy. I'm just going to sing. The mice decide to open the window, help her out. And that is the only reason that she doesn't get stuck up there forever. So they try to give her more agency and then have her do completely stupid things like, I'm just going to accept that I'm stuck up here. Like, even animated Cinderella still banged on the door. She still said, okay, go get the dog, who does, in fact, do something that would kill Lucifer if it wasn't a cartoon.
Lucifer is dead in the original. Lucifer is dead. He gets chucked out, multi-story, and that's like some Wile E. Coyote shit that goes down. He's dead. Lucy is dead.
So yeah, they try and give her more agency, and it ends up just making her weirder. It just backfires and entirely makes everything like, you're trying to make her really good tempered and just really nice and but you know, with that more agency, and it just doesn't work.
It comes off as like she's like psychotically broke at that point.
She ends up kind of having more Stockholm syndrome than Belle probably does.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's just like, I am gonna stay in this house with these people that abuse me. I could leave. I have left. No, I went out into the forest and I had a conversation with a nice boy out there. But also, I'm just gonna go return to that house again. And it's like, eh, okay, you know, they tried. They tried. They really did.
The only thing I could say about the live action that it does better is like Charming and Cinderella like seem more human, but like
Yes.
you can't not do that if you're making it live action. It's impossible not to because they have zero personality in the original. But like they make the king better because instead of like I want grandchildren and if I don't get my way, I'm going to go Red Queen and go off with people's heads because if you tell me something I don't like, I will chop you with this sword. But in the live action, he's like, yeah, you need to marry for this alliance, and then he's in his deathbed. He's like, no, marry for love. Fuck it, just be happy. And it's like, okay, that's an improvement, but it's like a character that didn't really matter that much. So it's like it's I could barely count it as an improvement. Otherwise, it does not justify its own existence. It doesn't improve. It doesn't do a retelling, and it doesn't take anything from the original source material.
And the redesign of the dress, like the iconic princess dress, like I don't hate it. I don't particularly like it. I also don't hate it. I can see what they were trying to do with it. It is better than the Beauty and the Beast one. But it still has that issue of like, I'm just gonna like adjust your dress and then make it a completely different one. But I do like Fairy Godmother. I don't mind Fairy Godmother.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Yes, she's a bit of a ditz still, but she's a little bit younger. And she still has that kind of animated bounciness. So as far as I was concerned, I was like Fairy Godmother, I have pretty much no issue with. I like the king. I like Charming a little bit better in this one. And I like the bouncy ditziness of Fairy Godmother.
One thing I didn't even realize until you brought up Fairy Godmother, the lack of music makes it better. Yes. I bippity boppity fuck you. I hate that song. Everybody has to hate that song. It's oh god. Zalakadula, Mechikabula, bippity boppity boo, put him there, what do you got, bippity bop. That's the whole song. I just said the entire song. And it goes over and over and over. And if you're a kid and it's like you open up a book,
right? It just only plays occasionally. Especially in Birth by Sleep. But there is another No, that song is
don't bring up Birth by Sleep. You'll just make me think of Jacques and Birth by Sleep in his weird fucking voice and his stupid face. Ugh.
But yeah, it doesn't really do enough to justify the existence. It's just kind of mostly harmless.
Yeah. So both not great, but if you're gonna do a reshot of the original, then the original is just gonna win by default. If you don't add anything to the old recipe, the one that has some nice moments and animation is going to win outright, even though they're both boring as fuck. And Ever After is one of the best movies ever made, and you can't compete with it if you're Disney. You can't try to compete with Ever After as the telling of Cinderella. It can't be beat. And if you try, it'll show because you're gonna copy it. So they just went for the shot for shot, made a bunch of money because these things always make a shit ton of money, more so than the originals, and people still don't like it even though they all saw it. So that's that story of those movies. And that brings us to Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book in 2016, which has differences, more so than Cinderella, yet is still telling the same tale as opposed to Maleficent or Alice in Underland. And the animation's good in The Jungle Book.
The animation is good, and the modeling is done really well. And the effects as well, for the most part, are also really good. That's what my praise ends. I'm sorry. That's all I got.
Well, I had to rewatch the original because it had been, 25 years or whatever since I'd seen it, because I didn't like The Jungle Book as a kid very much.
That was the deal. You rewatched the original and I rewatched the live action one.
Yes. And the original is, once again, even worse when you watch it as an adult, because you instantly see how often the animations are reused over and over and over and over again. Like the opening shot where Bagheera turns around and hear the baby cry, that's used 4 other times in the movie, and it's so jarring.
Save the frame. Save the cells. Save the
So
frame. Save money.
No, kill the animals. We don't need to see
No,
that.
save the animals.
No, kill the animals. Save the frames. For those of you who do not understand that reference, it is a speed-running reference for Metroid, or Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo, but it somehow oddly works here. And that I didn't even think of before. But absolutely go for the speed run, guys. Come on, save the frames. The animated is obviously it's really lazy. They reuse. There's one entire animation with the snake dude. I've already forgot his name. Ka. There's like a 14-second animation of Ka falling down a tree that is used again, but it's later in the day, so like there's shadow. But it's the same exact 14 seconds played again, and it's so jarring, and it's so bad. And then obviously you have this super racist song and character designs of Louis the orangutan with his jive talking, I want to be just like an actual man, with the lips and the ears and the with the jazz, and then you have the beetle haircut fucking monkeys. Why all the characters have to have human hair? I don't understand. Even the fucking some of the elephants.
Because they're trying to help you relate to the character.
Bagheera and Baloo, the animals you see the most, or Shere Khan, they don't have fucking afros or freaking the Rachel haircut on them. I don't understand why so many animals had to have a human head of hair.
It looks cuter, and it helps people relate to them, like they're a little bit more human.
It doesn't for me. It doesn't. It's just like, I already don't like the Beatles, which I get is weird, but to see monkeys with Beatles haircuts with singing a racist song, it's very fucked up. Is not something I'm into personally.
Yeah, that's before you even get to the vultures.
And then
The entire thing is incredibly
So the live action has a story, as opposed to the original, which is like, oh, we need to get you like 2 miles away, otherwise this lion that we're pretty sure is coming is gonna he's gonna kill you. And then he's like, I don't want to go, I want to live in the jungle. And the minute he sees a woman his age, he's like, fuck, hell yeah, I'm going to that. And that's the movie. That's just the end. He's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get on that thing. And then that's just it. And the movie just ends, and you're like, what? It just screeches to a halt. Already a short film, but the fact that that's how it ends. He's like, I don't want to go. He's like, yo, but there's girls though. And then he's like, yo, girls. And then he's sold. He's sold on which. That should have been your lead, Bagheera. On the brochure, that should have been number 1. It's like, yo, girls though, or whatever your proclivities are. I get, he's like 6 or whatever, but that's what works for him. And in a live action
training, he's a Chad in training. You gotta know what you want from being age 6, 8 onwards.
In the live action, they don't have the racism or the weird haircuts. And they actually and they actually bother to put in a story with the wolf pack, and I mean, they don't have as much music, and the fire, and you know, Baloo, Bill Murray, Baloo tricks him.
Now. Yeah, Baloo has absolutely no reason to have any attachment to Mowgli in the new one other than as a device for getting food, because that's what he uses him for. So he has no reason to be emotionally attached as a, but you're my friend and I love you, much more as a, you are a tool to get me honey without me getting injured, and I need you for that. So
he's like a novelty.
Baloo, yeah,
he's like, you're kind of cool. You know what? You're kind of cool. You know, let's stick around. You got this thumb action thing going on. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah, it's like, you're kind of neat.
He gets Mowgli like stung by bees, multiple, and hurt. And then Mowgli's like, yeah, you're teaching me how to be, you know, you can teach me how to keep living here and be a bear. It's real cool. And Baloo's like, yeah. You keep getting me the honey kid, and, you know, we're set for life. We're real good. And then Bagheera turns back up and it's like, you know, we need to take him to safety because there is a psychopathic tiger on the loose. And Baloo's like, no, but I really care about him though. Like,
the only tiger that exists, by the way, in this country, apparently. And they swap I think we talked about it when I was watching it, but they like swap the order of something around. The confrontation as to Baloo's telling Mowgli that he has to go back happens like nearly immediately after they've met, rather than after the ordeal. Is Mowgli gets kidnapped as a consequence of running away from Baloo. You betrayed me and told me that I had to go back to the man village, which I didn't want to do because you first told me I could stay with you. So they kind of changed it around. I don't mind that change. I don't mind the change of, you know, the betrayal happening first and Mowgli running into his own trouble of them being kidnapped and taken off for it. It works out a little bit better than, you know, like, bare necessities, you know, real cool, real good. And then suddenly the monkeys just turn up and kidnap him and just kind of swing away with him. And in the animated, there's like the showdown with Shere Khan, and Baloo gets like fucked up, and then he's like, you know what, I'm fine. Fuck it. I'm cool now. He didn't hurt me like at all. And this is like, okay.
Scratch.
But there's like not even a scratch. Yeah. He's just like, yeah, I'm good. It's like I was like motionless or whatever. You thought I was dead, but I'm like 100 right now. It's fine.
He was probably a bit dizzy, maybe just a little bit tired, and he was like, you know, I'm just gonna take a little nap. And everybody's like, oh my god, Baloo's dead. And he's like, you know what? I'ma just let him think that for a hot second. You know, I'm tired. You know.
Yeah. So like, I felt like the conflict was much better in the live action, and
yeah.
To me, the live action wins out because it's not. Yeah, by default, because it doesn't have the racism, and there's actually a story, and it's I don't not like the as boring.
But they still tried. They still gave it something to do. I don't think that was a good thing that they tried to give you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not good, but they still tried to give it something to do. So I respect it for that, and it's not racist. So by default, it wins.
Yeah. All right. So there you have it. That's the first outright live action winner, as opposed to its counterpart, where. I mean, it is still a retelling, but they made it into a story this time.
Yes.
Which I'm sure Rudyard Kipling is totally all for. And now we get to go to your favorite, Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Internal screaming. Oh, boy.
And there's no Tim Burton to save you this time.
Oh.
You know, the first one is bad when it made $1 billion and no one gave a hot shit to see the second because they all saw the first one once, regretted it, and didn't see the second.
It is amazing, honestly, how bad the second one is.
So I haven't seen it. I have seen scenes of it and some compilations. So I know what happens. But
the horrified screenshots from me as I was rewatching it.
And it's not on Disney Plus, because it's somewhere else, I guess, until November 2022 or whatever. Because when I looked for it, the only thing I could find was Nutcracker in the Four Realms, which is just an Alice in Wonderland story that they fucking took off the rack and be like, let's just fucking make it a Nutcracker or whatever. And
Nutcracker skinned.
Yeah, they just put a Nutcracker skin on it and made it nothing to do with the Nutcracker, really. And they just made it into another Wizard of Oz Alice in Wonderland movie. Mm-hmm. But this one is an Alice in Wonderland movie, and the plot is, Alice, you have to come back! Mad Hatter's, like, he's sad.
He's depressed.
That's the plot.
Because his family are dead as much as he thinks. As far as he's concerned, and he's aware, which is a fair assumption, to be fair. We'll give him that credit. You know, if you see your family get burnt to a crisp by a Jabberwocky, you would also think that they're dead and wouldn't really have a reason to suspect otherwise.
But it's not like they were killed between movies. They were already dead.
Yeah, no, they were already dead, and then they're walking through a field, and he comes across a paper hat that he made that apparently also survived that entire field burning.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gives him the flashbacks and makes him think about his family, and he gets incredibly depressed. And because he's magic, the depression starts making him colorless, and he starts dying, straight up dying. Kind of like like when it's a world where if you don't believe in the characters, or you know, like they start to fade away and their magic goes, and all of those stories with that as a plot vehicle, it's like that for Mad Hatter. So of course, because Mad Hatter is now the protagonist, truly.
Yeah.
He's not he's the main character. Alice is still the protagonist, but the Mad Hatter is still the main character for the second one.
The deuteragonist.
Yes. And it revolves around time travel and going, okay, well, let's explore some of the concepts of Wonderland and how it works. So we will basically have some time shenanigans with Sacha Baron Cohen being pretty much just himself. And we'll bring back Red Queen and White Queen, and we'll have every other character make like a little bit of a cameo, but we'll focus on the kind of conflict and how did the Red Queen get so buggered up as she did. You know, like what kind of led to the state of the world that you find it in the first one is kind of what
the answer is not satisfactory whatsoever.
It is not. It is not. Do you remember when before I watched it and I was like, isn't it some bullshit like blah blah blah? And
she hits her head on the curb or something. Yeah. It's like, yep.
She could have broken her neck. She was like 1.5 centimeters of breaking her neck in half.
Oh, which would have saved us so much time.
Oh. It is all just to be like, you know, how did we get here, but also kind of retconning a little bit of the first movie, but trying to like reinvent it so you could continue on from there, but also still be a sequel. It's such a mess.
And this is, by the way, for those of you keeping score at home, this is our 3rd Disney live-action adaptation that has Helena Bonham Carter in it, and I guarantee you we are not done. She's gonna pop up in one of these upcoming ones that have yet to be announced. It's gonna happen.
It's such a mess.
Yeah.
Immediately blocked it out again after watching it. Like I did the first time, and I did watch on because it is on my version Disney Plus, so I was able to watch it through there because we don't own it. That's like we don't even own it. We have the first one, but we don't have the second one. It was like, you know, like we're not even getting that one. My parents will normally be like, you know, we'll get it anyway. No, not even for this one. No. And that's when I know that it's really bad in this house.
And I never read Through the Looking Glass, but I have to imagine this movie has zero to do with it.
Oh, it has next to nothing. It is all about basically, so these movies are also, you know, trying to give Alice a good reason to want to escape, you know? So this one is mostly, okay, so what if she went traveling, you know, like what she was going to do at the end of the first movie, and then she comes back and everything isn't as she left it, you know, like the house is potentially going to be sold. Hamish, the ex potential fiance, is now like her boss, and he obviously doesn't like her, and they go back to being like oh, blah, blah, blah. You're a woman. You can't be doing this, and blah, blah, blah.
Don't you love that? It's like in
I
between movies, they forgot she was a woman, and then they came back to the second movie. It's like, wait a minute, you're a woman. You can't do any of this.
And she's wearing these exotic oriental clothes. She's wearing pants. And she gets institutionalized because they think she's crazy, which is actually just ripping off Alice Returns once again, the American Mickey games.
Oh God! Don't
Yeah.
bring that up. You will give people nightmares.
No, she gets institutionalized, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna send her to that for her delusions, and it's like partway through the story, and it's basically the crux of, okay, well, she's got to go back and sort out the Wonderland plot, but now she's also basically like an escaped mental asylum fugitive,
and that's how we got Sucker Punch.
Yes, and her mother helps her escape. Like, her mother absolutely thinks that she's a loony, but then also decides, well, I can't let her be the boss mice, so I'm going to help her escape. And they never address it, because at the end, Alice gets to go back to exploring. They don't sell the house. It's all good, So it's like, what is this mess?
So, good movie?
Oh. Never ask me that again.
And we're moving on. 2017, Bill Condon's Beauty and the Beast. I grew up in a Beauty and the Beast household because my mother made it so. She saw it in theaters like legit 14 times, maybe 16, I don't know. So I watched that movie a lot growing up and watched the Christmas special sequel thing and love it. Good music, great animation, great characters, and then live action's coming out, and it's like, okay, it's like, I know it's not gonna be the original, but I'm still have my hopes up, and it's Emma Watson, so I gotta see it. And then I saw it, and it was pretty good. It's I'm not gonna say it's better than the original. It fixes a bunch of plot holes in the original, as a lot of the live actions do, with people's memories being taken, and the fact that he wasn't fucking 10 when he got turned into the Beast. He was already an adult, because the original makes no sense, because an
11-year-old adhered to stranger danger. 11-year-old
exactly
prince
who is answering his own door in a castle.
And was only being raised clearly by the servants.
He made the right call. He watched Snow White. He says, old woman offering something of little value, that shit's poison. No, get the fuck away from me. And she's like, no, I'm an enchantress, and I'm gonna turn you because, judge a book by its cover. And it's like he's 11. So the live action fixes that.
And he does call her like an ugly hag. And then she takes that as, the main point of offense. And it's like, okay, listen, here's 11, all right?
Yeah.
An 11-year-old is going to be incredibly blunt about that. And he's a prince. Like, yeah, he's going to be a little bit of an arrogant prick. But the main be-all end-all point is that you are a stranger asking a royalty to let you into his house to just dick around for a while. Of course he's gonna say no matter how rude he was about it. Of course
he makes the 11-year-old Prince Adam, which they never call him in the movies, I know, but he makes the right call. No, old evil ugly lady with a rose. And he was right. She was an evil enchantress who put a spell on him using the rose. He was right because she's the villain in both versions of the story. She is the villain. You can't convince me otherwise.
She also curses the entire staff. She curses everyone else in that castle. So the live action one tries to fix that by being like, well, we didn't really stop him from turning into a bit of a prick. And it's like, you guys are the servants. That still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it's not your job. Unless you are the royal tutor or the royal witness, the person that was specifically looking after him, it is not your responsibility to make sure that the royal prince turns out as a good person. That is not your responsibility in either way, shape, or form. So the fact that they're still cursed for it wasn't really a fix. That makes its own plot hole. I wish that they'd done something else that made it out that the servants were evil or horrible in some way, and then they had to atone for it the other way around rather than this way. but
Well,
you know,
the thing is, Disney is kind of stuck here because they made they put Beauty and the Beast on the map. That story, they made it, and they completely made it on their own because it's nothing like the book at all. Because in the original, her name is Beauty. It's not Belle. Her family isn't poor, but then they become poor, but she has a bunch of siblings, and there are no talking furniture. It's all a bunch of monkey helpers. And it turns out that she and the prince are actually first cousins, and that's just totally cool. And so there's not a lot that Disney can take from the original book to throw into their live action. I totally understand that. And they have to make Lumiere and Cogsworth and Mrs. Potts. They kind of have to do. They back themselves into a corner by making such a goddamn good original animated film.
They did.
So they didn't have a lot of wiggle room as opposed to some of the other Germanic stories that they have adapted. But
and I don't think that even like Gaston being like coming back like post war, like that's not bad. That's not bad because that like he was a jock in the original. Like if we're being real about it, he's just a jock he's a bit of a dick, and he expects to get what he wants, right? And that's kind of the whole point of it, is that he's revered in the town because he's so strong, and he goes out and he's
really really good at expectorating.
Yes, he is. So he's just kind of used to getting what he wants and being the town hero. So the idea that there's something out there greater than him obviously threatens him, especially when it's coming in on who he views as his woman. So the turning him into a war vet and having him kind of come from that thing of like, he still thinks that he's in a war. And that's kind of how he views it. That's pretty good. That's a good translation of it, of just being like, he still thinks that he's still in this mindset. Whereas everyone else is kind of like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, we're provincial. That's cool.
It's cool.
We have this one fucking lady who reads. That's fucking weird, right? That's kind of kooky.
Oh, teaching another one to read isn't one bad enough.
Yeah. Let's fuck up her laundry. She's a witch.
This library that has like 5 books.
Yeah, and it's also like a bookstore, but she like uses it as a library. She's like, oh, which one today? This one? Haven't you gotten that one 1,000,000 times? Oh, but I love it.
And all right, great in the original. It's great in the original because it is a bookstore. It makes, like that town wouldn't have a library, but them having a bookstore makes a lot more sense. The live action one's like, here's this she literally says she's going to the library. It's like 5 books. It's like, okay. know.
So the differences between the live action and the original here, I think personally are the most unique because it's not 100% shot for shot. They add other things and they change some of the problems of the original, but they also are going for the same story. So like they made Maurice a way better character in the live action, in my opinion.
I agree. Like he was cute in the original, but he's an actual character in the new one.
Yeah, he's instantly sympathetic. He gets his own song. You see that he loves his daughter and he misses his wife. Whereas in the original, he is crazy old Maurice because at this point he hasn't invented anything that works, and so there's like by the provincial town's point of view, there's no reason to believe that the beast is a thing.
He's just really supportive of his daughter. He's just really supportive of her, and that's like his main character trait, is that he's just supportive of her and just really kooky. He's eccentric.
Yeah.
That's his 2 things. He's really supportive of his daughter, including being like, if you would like to marry Gaston, I'll support you in that. And her being like, nah. And he's like, okay, that's fine. And also being eccentric.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, he does actually have a proper character on top of also being like, I love you, child. And I miss your mother.
Yeah. And
I don't hate the plague thing. I think it's a little weird. I don't think they necessarily needed to make it a specific thing. That they were like, because it's always like that whenever they say, parent died of illness, especially in Disney movies, and everybody's like, what fucking illness was it? So then they tried to make it something specific, and it makes sense for the time period. So I don't hate it, but it's also kind of like, I don't necessarily think it was the specification critique or nitpick that they always get is like something that you really needed to address specifically and be like, it wasn't just generic parent illness, it was a plague.
It wasn't it wasn't something that we needed to know, or we didn't need that scene where they go to Paris
Go back. Yeah, they changed
the book.
how the mirror functioned. They changed it. So it was like, well, now you can just travel there in like a weird mirror dimension.
Well, no, the book and the mirror are different things.
Yes, no, you're right. But no, like the addition of the book in terms of doing pretty much what the mirror was doing. Because in the original, the mirror kind of spans the views. And it might just be the way that they show it. The mirror almost kind of takes you into that specific scene.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So like,
and they've just kind of given you two objects that do pretty much the same.
The book teleporting thing, it wasn't needed, but I thought it was kind of nice because...
It's nice. It's really nice attention to detail. It's really nice. It just wasn't needed. Because
Beast gets that moment where it's just like, I know your story and your father's story now, and I can sympathize with that. And I realize what I'm doing is wrong. Your father's not a thief. I shouldn't have called him that. And you know, you should go to him. And it's like that's when and that's a nice little added bit that we didn't need it, but it was still nice.
It is nice. It is nice.
Yeah, the music doesn't hit as well in the live action. No. It's almost impossible to do when you compare a live action to an animated. It feels very Broadway-y, the way that all of the musical numbers are set up. And let's be honest, trying to do Be Our Guest in live action is just, it's always going to look weirder than it does in the cartoon, because like it's taking place on this table, this one single solitary table, and you have Lumiere singing it, and obviously he's not a much of a singer, but he's also not French. So
bless him, Ewan McGregor talking about it afterwards, being like, my accent was so horrible, and I have a French wife.
I didn't know he was married to a French woman. That's funny.
A French woman. And he's just like, looking back on it.
Oh man. Oh, that's interesting. But so and then with the Gaston song, it just felt very Broadway-y, which it looks weird, in a live action tavern with cameras and choreography and trying to make the animated lyrics and motions make sense in live action, which they're not going to translate super duper well.
No, but adding that the fact that LeFou was paying everybody was a good way around it, almost.
Sure.
Just being like, he's paying them to be that animated, as opposed to them just, just kind of be like, whatever, this bullshit's happening.
Right. It's exactly the same, but it's less believable when you see real people do it. So the fact that he's paying them, it helps a little bit. But the addition of Evermore was fantastic, I thought.
I like Evermore.
It's a completely original song. It's once again given to a character that didn't have a song in the original, and it's really good. It's the lyrics, the emotions that the Beast is going through, and the delivery of that baritone voice. Some people criticized it like that it's Oscar bait when it wasn't even nominated. I felt it should have been nominated and won for that year, personally. But I thought it was just a really good, powerful song that felt like a little Broadway in its long delivery, but for the moment I thought it was very fitting and a nice addition that they didn't need to add, but they didn't swing and a miss on that one. Felt like that one was a hit. But other than that, the music kind of misses on the live action.
It's again that energy thing. They just don't have the same energy. And they tried. Like they really tried with everything in this movie. Like that's really, really apparent, is that they really wanted to get this one right.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna get Emma Thompson, we're gonna get Ewan McGregor, we're gonna get Ian McKellen, we're gonna get all the Ians, the Ewans, and we're gonna make it look pretty. And I have no problem with the Beast CGI. Everyone loves to hate on CGI, and maybe it doesn't look great 5 years from now when we see something that's insanely better. But it
looks like a mix between the original and Vincent from the Beauty and the Beast TV show, so I have no problem with it. I like both.
The one with Kristen Cruick?
Yes. No, the original one. The original one. That was a
From
reboot. It's
oh,
from the 90s. It
yeah,
had
the 90s. Yeah,
the
90s one.
90s one.
I
The
only
original one, not
I
the
have
Christopher. I like forgot that they had been rebooted until you said that, and I was like, wait, no, not
yeah,
that
because
one.
he's not hairy at all. He has like sexy scars. It's like that's not a
Yeah.
beast. He's just
He gets-
sexy.
He gets less scars as well, I think, is like his whole deal. We were like, what is this? No, the original 90s one.
I only
Where
have
she's
vague
like
memories. I never
district
saw it, but
attorney.
I've seen pictures.
It's really sweet. I like that one. So no, the and it's all prosthetics and makeup as I recall. So it's done really well, and the 2017 Disney one just kind of felt like a blend in between the two. So I had no problems with it.
Yeah, and they keep his size totally the same throughout the movie, which the animated, it's like he's huge and then he's like small, then he's huge and he's small, and then it's like, how did Belle get him on the fucking horse? And in the live action it's like, oh, you're gonna have to help me get you on this horse. And it's like, okay, that was fine, and some of the lines were still funny, even they were, you know, lines that we've heard 100 times before. But so while it didn't differentiate, it added a decent amount of original content. And I'm not even like taking, they didn't like even do To Be Human Again. They didn't even like add that song or anything like that.
I was so sad about that. Like the lack of Human Again and the change in the dress with like my two like biggest like, oh.
I have no problem with Human Again not being in there. Because like when I first saw that like actually being done for the animated remake, like deleted scenes and stuff, remastered or whatever, like finished, I wasn't like a fan. I was like, yeah, you can cut that. So I wasn't
emotional attachment to it. It's more of the, you know, it was Howard's song.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
we didn't get it.
Right, but
for me, it's more of that. It's more of that, you know, just like, you know, not erasing his work.
Yeah. So this one's difficult for me because like they don't change a bunch of stuff. They make some improvements. Some things look weird. Some things aren't as good. But then they also added stuff that was pretty much exclusively good on the stuff that they just added their own original things. We don't have to get into LeFou being gay because like that's like not even part of the movie. And like the director is the one who mentioned it like before the movie came out. So then everyone hyped it and it was nothing. We're not going to talk about that because like that's not the movie's fault.
It is a nothing thing.
It is a nothing thing. But so
to him, that's just who he is. Who cares? Moving on.
So, but like, do you think it justifies, the live action justifies itself to exist from the original animated?
I think just barely it does.
Yeah,
just barely.
I want to say it does, but yeah, you're right. It has to just be barely. You could say it's Emma Watson prejudice, but it gets an extra point in my book. I'm not ashamed to say it. So, 2018, Christopher Robin, which is different from the other adaptations because this is like it's not like Alice in Wonderland where it's like a sequel reboot. It's just like a sequel, but like super later.
Yeah,
it keeps everything like canon.
It reminds me of the original like animated movies that we had in like the aughts, where they just all kind of happen in the same general universe. You know what I mean? Like they all do happen, but it's not like they're directly being referencing each other or directly linked to each other. They just all did happen at some point.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, again, we have Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
So two for Team Ewan, and let's hope we can get that Obi-Wan show on Disney Plus, and it's as many episodes as we hope it is.
Why do I want that?
God, yes. I thought he was you know a good choice. You know, he has that infectious happiness about him, but also like the believable, like, oh, I'm a grown up, I'm doing grown up stuff, and it's like, oh, you know, I don't have time to go to the countryside this weekend. I'm gonna lose my job, and people are counting on me. I gotta crunch the numbers. It's like he's believable in like both of those aspects of the character, which is I think like all you really needed to have for this particular film, which is a very short film. Honestly, I think it is. I don't know if it's shorter than Cinderella. Let me see. I think it is. The Cinderella's 106 minutes. Christopher Robin is 104 minutes. It's shorter by 2 minutes. So yeah, it's the shortest of all the live actions on here. But the fact that it's pretty much just like a straight up sequel, because like it keeps everything in canon. Now you might be saying, what about Gopher? It's like they're only keeping like original A.A. Milne characters as So we're not gonna have everything that we saw in the cartoons that we all watched growing up, which are fantastic. But still, those stories that we all know are we see them referenced, and you have the age old story of like it reminding yourself what it's like to be a kid, and like belief and imagination and goofing off and not being a stuffy dude, which can be kind of tiresome, but like this wasn't like the worst offender in that category, I feel. It's just that Jim Cummings as Pooh fucking wins the movie outright. Because it's just such a good performance that it doesn't matter what the fuck Winnie the Pooh says. It's just, aw, hell yeah. Fucking Winnie the Pooh, man. That's my dude. That's my fucking dude. I don't care, he's kind of dumb, it's forgetful, he doesn't remember Sora, whatever. It's just, he's just like, he wants to love you, he wants to have fun, he wants to eat a bunch of honey, and it's like, that's what he's about. Friendship and honey, everything being cool, and that's what Jim Cummings brings to the character. Obviously, yes, he's also Tigger, and he's the only one. Obviously, T.I. double go her for life, and that's I felt like that movie would have felt really disingenuous if you didn't have Jim Cummings reprising those roles, because that's kind of the heart and soul of the film is Pooh. And they don't go full like Smurfs on you and just have the whole thing be, oh, what are these animated characters going to do in the real world? Kind of a bullshit thing.
Oh my good lord, I forgot about Smurf's existence. Oh no.
Because you might have seen the trailers and see them in the story in the real world, but like that's only the last 15 minutes of the movie is them in the actual real world. And it's not like super goofy or weird.
Yeah. Oh, it reminded me of Nanny McPhee's trailers, so that also did that, where it had like the weird parts were all like, the last kind of, it was either the start, like the first 15 minutes, or the last 15 minutes, the same thing in the marketing approach. But yeah, no, it's such a sweet, hot, like harmless movie. It's just, is that nice little dosage of, reminding you what it's like to be a kid with that little innocence, but not saccharine about it. And it's not entirely like, you have this feeling and you can have that feeling, but we have to kill it. It's just like, there is that feeling and you can have that alongside everything else that you're doing. You can still be an adult and still have that feeling.
What I felt what movie did that absolute best, and it's an absolute marvel of a movie, is The Little Prince.
Yes.
That is such a good movie, and it delivers that idea of not losing your inner, I hate to use the word inner child because it's been completely overused and is not like the right phrasing, because it's like, it's not like a different part of you or something like that, but just not forgetting what it's like to be a kid, and the fact that like kids aren't like a different species or something, and not wanting to grow up too fast, and like and still being responsible, but like also having time for fun and stuff like that. Where in the Christopher Robin film, the way that they kind of made that coalesce was his idea to, let's just do nothing. That will solve our problems. If we do nothing and we lower our prices, that will save the company and give everyone vacation time. We'll set a precedent. And, it's a little bit of a stretch, even though it's technically historically accurate.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a stretch, but I don't have that much of a problem with it. It's kind of odd, but it's that kind of realization that he has, where instead of like trying to slash budget and fire this people, is just like sometimes doing nothing is the best thing to do. And that's kind of that message of, you know, being a kid and not overthinking things or making everything about money and blah, blah, blah. And obviously you have friggin' Mycroft Holmes there golfing it up and trying to take credit. And then it ends up, oh, you didn't have a plan. You were golfing and all that stuff. So, like, you get the villain at the same time who gets his comeuppance. And you also get, you know, hooray, all of the other workers don't get to lose their jobs kind of a thing. So, like you said, it's not an offensive movie whatsoever. It's very safe. It's very, you know, it's not like sunshine and rainbows kind of a thing, but it's just like, you know, here's a reminder. You're Christopher Robin. The tree needs to be where the tree is wherever it needs to be, and fucking Pooh Bear is Pooh Bear, man, and it's the best. So, I mean, obviously, since it's not adapting a film, it absolutely justifies its own existence, and the fact that it pays tribute to that source material very, very well. I also just makes it straight up a good movie.
Agreed.
You want to talk about Dumbo?
We have to.
Yes, I think in the contract we have to talk about at least 2 Tim Burton movies that are shit.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get this one out of the way. Go, lightning round. We don't like either of them.
We don't like either of them. The original is not even an hour long. If you take out like the intro credits and the ending credits, the original movie of Dumbo is not even an hour. And it makes perfect sense because they had to make it. Disney had to make it to make up for the failure that was Fantasia. They're like, fuck, we need some cash. Fucking Dumbo. And then Disney, and their out of touchness, let's just say, fucking Katzenberg, fucking Quibi, they were like, hey, let's just do Dumbo. People like that ride at Disneyland. There was no demand for a Dumbo movie. People don't really like Dumbo. It was just an old thing that was popular because there was 4 things that existed back in the day. So yeah, people are going to like the one animated film that came out that year. The original is garbage. It's super short. It's ultra racist. Easily the most racist film that we are going to be talking about tonight. You have a crow that is named Jim Crow. And
you have the beginning.
Complete. You have the opening song of the black people making up the tents and calling each other apes and uneducated. And then you have the jive talking crows.
I love this movie so much.
It's a problem. And the story's kind of dumb. Not that you have an elephant that can fly or whatever. You know, fiction got a fiction. The dumb thing is like kind of like how it works, and you don't like. I felt nothing for that movie, and the pink elephants last forever. Oh my god! Like I never liked it.
So brief, and then Pink Elephants is just so long that it's like, oh my good god!
And it's like you're trying to make up the lost money from Fantasia, and then you made half your movie a Fantasia fucking drug trip. What? And that like that's one of the like lauded things about the original is like, oh, the Pink Elephants, the animation is so great. It's like, no, it's not. It's just shit. It's a bad song. It's creepy. It takes up a huge portion of the movie, and also like the movie ends the scene after that.
It feels like Pink Elephants was a failed concept, or like a cut concept for Fantasia, but they'd already done some of the drawings and some of the like the cells, and so that way they just used it and could save money because they'd already done parts of it. They didn't have to spend the money on the new cells. They could just be like, all right, we'll just repurpose them. We didn't use them in Fantasia. They may have, it might have been that they were supposed to be fully colored, but they were only outlines, right? So then they're like, okay, well, we'll just make them look like bubbles, because then you get to keep them really, really, really flat and, well, not necessarily flat, but you know what I mean? Like a lack of depth in the coloring and the shading style that you do them in. You know what I mean? Like that's what that sequence feels like.
And then there was like the elephant. I don't know if you remember, but like toward the end, the elephants form into like an elephant mech. like an elephant that's made out of elephant, like a fucking a Gundam made out of elephant heads that are all like have these weird evil eyes and smiles.
I actively try to forget it, but I'm absolutely picturing it as we're talking about it, and I don't wish to be.
Yeah,
I would like to stop it.
I didn't like Dumbo as a kid, and I hate it even more as an adult, and it's not even an hour. It's not even an hour. and the ending is what gets me the most of Dumbo. If you don't remember, in the original Dumbo, for those listening, he flies, and then, oh my god, it's huge success, and you see a bunch of newspaper headlines of like, elephant can fly, and then it says, flying elephant's manager signs him to $1 million deal, and it's fucking Timothy the mouse is his manager that negotiated $1 million deal. A mouse
that we never confirm can speak to humans. We know he can speak to Dumbo.
Well, no, we know he can speak to humans because he whispers in the dude's ear when he's sleeping. He's like, "Great Dumbo, it's gonna be awesome." So it's like, we're just glossing over the fact that there's this mouse that's an agent for a flying elephant. That's the most absurd sentence in Disney history. And $1 million, like the original came out in 1941. I don't know when it's supposed to take place, but it's like in the live action, it's like right after a war, right after World War One. Am I getting that right?
I think so.
Yeah, so the live action, fucking what's his face?
Arrow.
Well, yeah, he loses his arm. He loses an arm in the war. Comes back to his kids, whose mother had died while he was gone, and
serious Disney illness, of course.
Yes, yep. They caught Disneyitis, and they lost a parent and an appendage of another parent. And so it's like, he can't ride horses and do his regular thing. And the girl's like, I'm going to be a scientist. But on the side has trained mice to do fucking Cirque du Soleil shit. And like, that's not the big breakthrough. It's like, they keep glossing over huge like scientific breakthroughs in these Disney movies. And they go with, so like, if you haven't watched the Tim Burton live action Dumbo movie, if you watch the original story is like the first 20 minutes of the live action. And then they go off on their own thing about selling Dumbo to freaking Michael Keaton's mega circus, which doesn't need his help, but he thinks it does to get the bank to whatever. And then he goes the Jurassic Park route where, it's like, oh man, people are sick of dinosaurs. We need to make a new dinosaur. He's like, an elephant that can fly? Not cool enough. Have a lady be on its back while it flies. Like, fucking what, dude?
Yeah, so somehow the marvel of a human woman becomes that much more amplified upon a flying elephant. But the flying elephant does not work on its own. It has to have somebody riding on the back. You have to have somebody riding the elephant. If there is no human involved, what is the point? Truly.
Why even have a circus?
Oh, but that's fine because the original wasn't really glorifying circuses. But Disney thought that people would criticize it. And probably people were. But they decided that they had to go the opposite direction. So you have to have the anti-circus method.
Yeah, because it's like this is an evil like corporate circus.
Yes, and animal circuses are horrible. Like, nobody's saying that they aren't. They are absolutely horrible. But they went on the almost preachy level of it, where it's like,
yeah. And it's
like only at the end, though, with Danny DeVito just sitting around being like, and so we finally became animal-free, and now we're a good circus.
And everyone loves us more now without, like, the animal acts? It's like, sure, that'll fly in, 1920 or whatever.
Yes. It's like animal circuses are bad, but you still didn't need to make an entire Dumbo remake just to say that. Okay, you can have that message without needing to remake Dumbo because that's what everybody else on this planet does. Yeah,
and nobody cares. and this movie it did horribly. How much money did this damn thing make? Let me see. It budget 170, box office 350. And I know it's like, it doubled its thing. Like, even if you're not accounting for like advertising and stuff, by Disney standards, that is a colossal failure. It's like you only you only made 180 million profit, maybe. You know, let's say they only made 100 million. It's like that. No, that's not good enough for Disney.
Nope.
So, hopefully, they will learn their lesson. Spoiler alert: on the upcoming live action ones, we will tell you how they are not learning their lesson. So, the second of the third of the three 2019 live actions, Aladdin. What did you think, Guy Ritchie's Aladdin?
I wanted it to be a Bollywood movie, and it should have been. It only is in the dance party that they're having at the end. And because it's not, the rest of the film that exists is entirely flat. With the exception, for the most part, of Will Smith. He's actually not that flat. But the numbers, flat. Hell. As all get out. The entire movie lacks energy. Far is not a menacing actor who's playing him.
Mm-hmm. Some people thought he was too hot.
He is too hot. His lines and his motivation is entirely. They almost tried to go the original. You know, he was either his uncle or pretending to be his uncle, depending on which one you want to go with. And you know, like training him and leading him up from the street rap life. So they try and do that a little bit with dipping into, well, you know, I used to be a street rat. I used to, you know, be a thief on the streets. But rather than do anything interesting with that, they just use it so that he can steal things off of Aladdin and then turn around and be like, but really what he wants is to be the Sultan, but also to like invade this other country that now exists and is a plot thing.
Yeah.
You know, and they mess up Jasmine entirely with not everything, not in every single aspect, but in the fact that her entire thing is that she won't be speechless and that she will be speaking up and she will do what she wants to do. She isn't really concerned about.
And she has the power to stop time in her songs.
She does have the power
like
to
clock
stop
stopper style.
And it's that she wants her independence rather than just lusting back after Aladdin. But then they entirely just kind of throw it away by being like, I won't be speechless and I'm going to do this stuff myself. Oh, wait, actually, I'm not going to do this stuff by myself. And oh, whoopsie, I've been captured and I literally have had my voice taken away from me the moment the song is over. Welp. And the Sultan he's a nothing character in the entire thing, other than just sitting around being like, oh, you know, that other country's doing fine. We should probably leave it alone. It's fine. It's fine. Iago being turned into whatever the hell you want to call that he was, and I don't necessarily mind that he didn't speak the entire way through.
Yeah, I don't care.
You know, they have the parrot doing the mimicking, and that's fine.
Yeah, voiced by Alan Tudyk, Disney's good luck charm. Like, yeah.
But all he does is basically just sit there until he's turned into a monster for a new chase scene at the end, where it's like. Will Smith, obviously not trying to do Robin Williams. He was never going to be able to. He was never going to be able to replicate the energy, but they are completely different characters. And as long as you're looking at them like that, Will Smith is absolutely fine. I don't mind that they gave him something else to want and do. I don't mind his performances. He is being him, and that's fine. And he's not unrestrained, but he definitely clearly had a little bit of freedom. So he's not being smudged into what a writer thinks Will Smith would do. It's just more, this is the general thing, go for it.
Yes.
So that works well in that regard.
Right. Because, he can't try to do Robin Williams because it's impossible because the role of the genie was written specifically for Robin Williams. It's like that's how they got him. They drew the genie doing some Robin Williams stand up, and then they showed it to him, and he was like, "Yeah, that could work. That's great. Let's get him." And
as you don't sell the image based off of this, we're good. And then, well, they did.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah. Well, yeah. It changed the landscape of advertising and voice acting for Disney forever after Robin Williams. But that's a different subject. I know I mentioned this to you before, but I think Will Smith's genie, the character, is a better character than the original animated's Genie. And I know that's gonna ruffle some feathers, but let me explain. So, the original Genie, blue guy, wants his freedom, whatever. He has the rapport with Aladdin, right? They become friends, friend like me, all that good stuff. And then he sets him free. He's like, all right, no, I'm going to make you a prince coming up. He's like, no, I'm going to set you free. And he sets him free. And then he goes around to Disneyland, and then he comes back, and then they have the animated TV show and then the 2 sequels, right? So it's like, yo, Genie, the fuck? I gave you freedom and you're still just sticking around with me. That's kind of weird. So the way I think of it, especially if you watch the animated series, what Genie did, because there is no Agrabah in real life, what he did is we know he exists outside of space and time because he knows Jack Nicholson and, cars and shit like that. So clearly, he just put Agrabah in its own little bubble so that he can play with his friends forever and not be subjected to the rest of the world. Whereas live-action Genie has motives. He wants to be a human. He doesn't want to just be set free. He wants to be human. He wants to have a wife and kids and travel and just be human. And that's what he clearly wants. And he gets a love interest, which is, maybe you don't like it, maybe you do like it. It gives him something else to do, and it differentiates him from the original Genie. But the motives of the character, of what he wants and what he gets at the end, whether or not we get some weird, Genie spin-off live action, which is supposedly in the works, his character as part of the story is better in the live action than I feel he is in the animated one. I know people are going to disagree because Robin Williams versus Blue Will Smith, right? But within within the story, I feel like his character, not the performance, not the actor, but the character is better in the live action than it is in the original.
The editing is done best when Will Smith's on screen, to be honest. There's weird editing and pacing issues all over the place, all over that film, especially in the songs, with the weird speed up, slow down between the sounds that you're hearing and the actions that are happening, or the camera cutting away from the wrong, from the people that are speaking.
Yeah, you're talking about the Prince Ali song.
Not even just Prince Ali. It also happens in Street Rap or One Step or One Jump. It also happens in that. It happens in nearly all of them. But it's pretty immaculate whenever Will Smith's on screen. So that's fine. It's pretty enjoyable when he's on screen,
Yeah. And
so, it's not horrible by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it really lacks the energy and the passion that's going into the animation and into the colorfulness, because it almost has a little bit of the color sucked out of it for being in live action, where they desaturated it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some points where they added that color back in, especially for Prince Ali, but it's just not consistent all the way through it. It's still really toned down. So for me, that makes it inferior to me.
Yeah, I think it's odd because the live action makes changes, adds things, and fixes some of the problems of the original, like Jafar fucking marrying the 16-year-old because he lusts after her, and this time she's obviously of age, and he marries her just to make the Sultan mad and sad and get his revenge. It's not because he's lusting after this young girl who.
And they're also much closer in age, at least by looks, at least.
yeah, and there's not the difference.
That helps.
So they made changes and they made some improvements, with some of the problematic things, and yet it still has a further gap in quality of the original than some of the others that did similar things. And obviously you can't replace Robin Williams' performance. The dude won an Oscar. They had to give him an honorary Oscar just because he did such a fucking good job. They had to just give him one. He wasn't nominated for anything. It's just like, here you go. Here's an Oscar. That's for you, buddy. So it's like, you can't do that again. And obviously, the music, it always feels a bit more stilted, a little bit more Broadway, and the pacing always feels rushed in the live actions, even though they're longer than the cartoons. And there are some ways to fix that, I feel, but to me, sometimes in some of these, it can be a little bit jarring. But it's, even with some of the improvements and some of the changes, and some of the changes weren't good. But like, I liked the fact that Jasmine wanted to be Sultan.
I know, I like that.
that was an improvement, because like
she's not just sitting there being like, oh, pretty boy, that's what I want now. She, like, rather than resisting.
Yeah, it wasn't just about marrying for love or like not wanting to be set up. She wanted to be Sultan. Like, that was her goal, was to be Sultan. She's like, I know the people, I know the countries, I've been training for this, even though somehow still in the live action, she doesn't know how money works when she just fucking gives a kid an apple.
Well, at least we skipped to it.
Yeah. And it's weird, because like, it doesn't feel like a Guy Ritchie film. I know there's some parkour aspects to it, but like, it doesn't feel like the Guy Ritchie editing and storytelling that we're used to. So like, it's almost like they just paid him just to have the name, and then just did their own thing with it. So like, Jasmine has some more agency and hopes and desires, whereas in the original, it's just, I just want to marry for love. And in the original, Aladdin will become Sultan because he married in, and he's the male, so he'll become Sultan. Like, that law didn't change in the original, but in the live action, he's just like, boom, you're Sultan. And it's like, guess what? Yeah, so I'm going to be a Sultan, and I can marry whoever I want, and I want the hot street rat dude from Canada. So yeah, you know what? Good for her. The Speechless song was fucking weird and out of place, and not. It felt like they wanted to put it in the movie, but they didn't know where the fuck to put it. So they're like, let's just stop time and have her sing it to nobody but like herself. But so she's kind of doing it, but also kind of not.
Needed to do it like after or during a Jafar and Sultan discussion where they're talking about the state of the state of the kingdom, or the state of affairs, or talking about the relationship with the other kingdom, and they're not listening to her, or she was trying to give their opinion. They're like, nah, get out the room, whatever, what would you know? And then she has that moment, and she comes in, and she actually has the appropriate plan, or the appropriate thing that will fix whatever they're talking about. That's the kind of situation that you need that song in. You need that song where it's like, yeah, well, what would you know? You just go over there and be quiet. And she's like, nah. Right? You will listen to me. I do know this place. I do know how this all works. This is what will actually work.
Yeah, that would be better. It would show her competence.
Yes.
And the fact that she knows better than these two dudes.
Yeah, like, she just says that she's competent and that she knows it all. She doesn't really show it.
Yeah, outside the fact where she's like, Agrabah, the fuck? Where is that? Show me on the map. Show me right now. And he's like, oh, it's fucking magic. And it's like, oh, no, there it is. And she's like, oh, fuck, I guess I was wrong. But she was right. There wasn't an Agrabah. But, I mean, no one did the homework in the original. They're just like, sure, yeah, I'll leave Agrabah. Go ahead. Come on in. There's no reason to suspect that someone would try to fucking hoodwink us. So, yeah. Not as good as the original. Some good things that they changed, and some bad things that they changed, and also just kind of meh. Just kind of meh.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the last of the 20. No, fuck. I keep forgetting. There's 4 of them. The third 2019 live action Disney. Did it feel like there was 4 of them last year? It's weird. Lion King. The one that I think most people were worried about.
Oh, I was worried.
Yeah. So, I know, I said I was a 101 kid, but yo, I had a Lion King birthday party. I had Lion King board game. I had the Lion King Bug board game. I had the Super Nintendo game. I had all the clothes. I had the Happy Meal toys. I actually also had the Aladdin Happy Meal toy. Well, at least I remember having one of them. I think it was Iago. Or, I don't remember. I'd have to look at an old Burger King commercial. So, like, Lion King was my shit when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. That was my jam. Fucking Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Home Improvement, I was on it. The live action...
I love Lion King. It is such a classic.
Yeah.
Even for me as well. But a little bit, it is... It's so good.
It's so good. Disney didn't even know. They put this was the B team. They put the A team on Pocahontas.
Baffling. It is baffling that this was the B, because I like Pocahontas as well. Like, don't get me wrong, but it is baffling that this was the B movie.
Yeah, it became the biggest animated film of all time and still wasn't beat until Frozen, I think. Mm-hmm. The first one, obviously, in the end. Because I used to work in a movie theater, and one of my bosses once told me he worked at a Plex he was managing. I think it had 8 screens. Every single one was showing a Lion King, and every single one was sold out. It's like it was huge, and it made a pretty big impact, and it was a part of a lot of people's childhood. Like, oh, Mufasa dies, I can't wait to be king. Elton John, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna make a live action, and they're like, wait, what? There's no fucking human. What? There's no humans. What do you mean live action? And then it's not. They just call it live action because that way they can pay the animators less, because that's how it works in the contracts. So then they were like, all right,
animators and the modelers are the best people about that film,
and it looks really good. It looks good. Insanely good.
It's basically an expensive tech demo that they at least got the practice out of by just remaking shot for shot OG Lion King, pretty much. It is absolutely a tech demo for something else that's going to be coming out. It's basically the tech demo for like Robin Hood and how all those types of things are going to work.
Yeah. So it's the best I've seen animals in CG in any movie by light years. And that part was good. People like hated like, oh, the animals don't emote as much. It's like, guess what? They're not cartoons. They're actual realistic looking animals with their realistic colors and realistic bone structures and muscles. That's what they can do. It's like they made it realistic. They can
actually emote a little bit more than what they realistically, quote unquote, went with. They actually can emote a little bit more than that, and there is a little bit lack of bounciness in some of their actions, especially when they're having characters actually bounce. Like Simba bounces when he's talking to Timon and Pumbaa during what's it, the montage one when he grows up.
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. I was
like, how do you forget? It's a wonderful phrase.
Yes, no. The log scene. Remember how they released that little clip early? There is actually a little bit of bounciness that they did reduce a little bit. So the movements are actually a little bit stiff, but they are going for a little bit more realistic style. So I don't really begrudge them for it, but they are a little bit stiffer.
Yeah, no, it was
and the faces do still lack emotion, and it is a big problem because it means that you're only relying on the faces and the voices, right? So like you kind of can't relate as well, and you won't necessarily understand it as well if they don't mesh well together. And it's that they're a little bit too stiff so that they don't mesh as well together as they should. And that's the critique in there.
And it's going to be hard because they were animated animals, and they're still animated animals. They're just realistic. There's no human elements to it, so you're not going to feel it or relate to it as much because you don't have the cartooniness of it, which is just like a little bit more exaggerated and like a little bit more stimulating than you have the realistic color palettes and the looks of lions and hyenas and the like. They brought back our boy to voice Mufasa, which is
James Earl Jones.
if you're gonna bring anybody back, obviously it has to be James Earl Jones. Like no question. It's like if you're gonna bring anyone back, it's gonna be James Earl Jones. But Jeremy Irons is also still alive and awesome.
Yep.
And I know every movie has to have either Tweedle, Ejiofor, or Idris Elba in their movie.
Yep.
Every movie has to have one of them. I get that. I understand. I don't know why that is, but I get that that's a thing. But Jeremy Irons, though, like I get he's a white guy playing, an African lion, but he's still like Nathan Lane and Pumbaa.
Seth Rogen?
No, Seth Rogen's the new Pumbaa. I don't remember the name of the old Pumbaa.
Oh, sorry. You're talking about the old one. Sorry.
Yeah, I was talking about Nathan Lane, the original, the Timon. They're obviously still around, but like not as important to the story. And you can see them going for like newer comedians to get on the talk shows and bring people in, but. Jeremy Irons is Scar though. Like you're losing a lot from that character if you don't have Jeremy Irons, especially in Be Prepared, which they changed from a song to just like this speech, and I hated it. I hated it.
Thanks, I hate it. Like, listen, if you're gonna do James Earl Jones, then they come as a package deal. All right, you need two, you need them both, or it doesn't work. If you've only got one, like what we ended up with, it's just a weird like. Okay, well then why isn't the other one here?
Even if you have to rehire Jim Cummings, who was the original voice of Ed, to fill in for Jeremy Irons because he was sick and filming Be Prepared. Even if you do that instead of having the other actor do this, that's fine. That's fine because you ruined that scene by just making this weird sing-talky, speechy thingy.
Yeah, like nobody's gonna miss the Nazi allegory. That's fine. You can get rid of that.
Yeah,
thanks.
that would be a weird set piece to have anyway.
Yeah. But the change in the entire tone, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
why would you do that?
And then of course they had to once again shoehorn this like but like the women were giving him attention.
Girl boss,
girl fight. It's like
these two
that's not the story. What are you talking about? They didn't have a rivalry. They're like built. No. They're like shows like remember this thing we built up? It's like no, you did not. You're just putting the two female characters in the movie fighting each other
against each other. The two characters have had like zero interaction, and we're already the matriarchal figures because that's how both of those packs worked. Like not even necessarily with the hyenas in terms of a real sense, but in the original. Shenzi is the leader, so that makes sense that she's the leader in the new one. It's not like it's this big change of like, well, now Shenzi's the leader, and like Nala is like the leader of the lionesses. Like, yeah, she was in the original as well.
Yeah, because that's how it would work with lions.
Robbie's just trying to fend off harassment from Scar. Like she's old and she's a widow, all right, and she's just trying to survive, all right. Yeah. Nala's the one that's leading them.
And so for her voice actress died, so we can't bring her back.
Yes, she did.
So I think otherwise like, maybe they would have done that just to keep like the power couple going.
Maybe, but it's just such a weird like these two weren't what? Why?
Yeah, and obviously like the big one, if you were on Twitter when this movie came out, Can You Feel the Love Tonight is playing during the day. I don't know how you fuck that up. I don't.
Literally just change the lighting and change the sky dome, all right? We can workshop it. You change those things first, and then we adjust a little bit more, and we're good.
You're already making Donald Glover sing with Beyonce, which is mean to do to a person. But you're also like any kid watching this for the first time who didn't watch the animated, be like, why is it called Can You Feel the Love Tonight? The sun's out. It's like they didn't have a 6-year-old at the studio being like, hey, the sun though. Weird.
Like the only thing I like in that film is the change of the luau scene, which is funny because it's an in-joke in the original. But the change of it to be our guest, like that's funny.
Yeah, that was funny. It was unexpected.
That was the only time I laughed.
Yes, same. I think that's the
that was the only moment.
Only good thing about the movie. Like the only thing was like, yeah, that was better. The only thing.
The modeling and the animation and the lighting and the effects,
Exceptional.
fantastic, exceptional.
But the movie that they've used it with,
yep.
nope. Because like they didn't really try to change anything. They shot for shot remakes. So like to me, it's just as boring as the Cinderella one is, because it's like you just did a shot for shot remake and made some things worse. I mean, obviously Lion King is a better movie than Cinderella, in both the animated and the live actions, but like the translation from one to another, it's like it's just as horizontal. It's like they didn't try to do anything, and I get why they didn't try to do anything, because like this thing was our humongous ultra mega hit. Let's not change it because people will come to see it and it'll make billions of dollars, and it did. It beat out Frozen as the top animated film of all time, this live action, with $1.657 billion. That's what you call a Disney success. On a $250 million budget, they made 1.6 in return. So that's why Disney's going to keep making these, because for every Dumbo, they're going to get a Lion King.
Yep. And the reality is, as well, like with Lion King, they could have just done whatever they wanted and done something incredibly experimental. And then if it went down that poorly, just been like, hey guys, we're re-releasing Lion King in 8K.
8K,
Who would have bought it?
Yeah.
It would have been fine. It would have been fine. They would have absolutely made a shit ton more money if they were like, okay, we're going to do another rerun of it. Because everybody likes it. Right? Like, it's not like they didn't have a safety net, as it were. As incredibly cynical and shallow as it sounds, like they have that safety net, and it's called the original Lion King, which everybody still will get again whenever it gets re-released in another format.
But
if they can get it in a format that looks even better than the last time they saw it, people will buy it.
But they had all this tech that they beta tested with Jungle Book and Jon Favreau. They're like, 3 years from now, Favreau, we're giving you Lion King, and you're going to take this tech and you're going to run with it, and it's going to look great. And it did, but the movie wasn't.
But that's okay, because now we know how Robin Hood will work.
Oh boy. Okay, so so we all agree, live action doesn't need to exist, doesn't justify itself, original's better.
Yep.
And I don't think we touched on Dumbo. Live action's better by default. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, we kind of touched on.
Yeah, we kind of already went through it.
I think it's better than the first one. They could have dealt with the whole thimble, like, queen king thing a little bit better.
I think that's what makes me feel like they're both on the exact same level, because it's just kind of like really like contrived.
Same level.
I'm like, this is really stupid. It's fine.
Yeah, so like they give Aurora a guy, and he's fine.
Well, he already had the guy. They just give him actual stuff to do. And recasted him because they needed to.
Yeah, as you do. As you're just like, we need the next flavor of the month boy here. We need to launch a new boy's career. Come on, where is he?
He no longer looks like Harry Styles and Louis and Liam Payne's love child. That's fine.
Yeah. So, I mean,
the whole like, it's more of the fact that they had to delve into like, okay, well, what do we do with Maleficent as a character now that we've done? She wasn't really evil twist, and what they decided to go with was,
what if people still thought she was evil?
Yeah, she's not actually the last of her kind, and what if people still thought she was evil?
Yeah.
And I get the whole...
And we turned into a dragon this time. We didn't fuck it up. We turned into a dragon this time.
I get the whole, like, the lingering, like, doubt and mistrust, almost, of, like, because she was so evil. Like, I get that. That's fine. It's more of the, like, pairing it on top of, like, the on-purpose misdirect and the mistrust, and then the, okay, but, like, she has to leave. What do we have her do, though? Because she can't just be doing nothing when she's left. Right? And then they're like, okay, well, what do we give her to do? Oh, I know. She's now like a phoenix. She's not really a dragon. She's a phoenix.
Yeah, because that's more heroic.
Yes. We'll bring back her people, and they're kind of like Avatar, Na'vi, a little bit.
They all have all the biomes of the world in this one centralized location.
Oh my good lord. It is so like, what is happening?
How to Train Your Maleficent: The Hidden World.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. I agree. It's on the same level as the original as Maleficent. I feel like it's better. I don't like Angelina Jolie, but she is perfect for this specific role, and I think this is the best movie that she's done for my 2 cents. On the other side of things, I think Elle Fanning is an amazing actress, and they wasted her in 2 movies.
I agree.
And obviously, this was not going to be a movie to show off acting chops. I get that, but it's along with the other one. It's just meh. It's like, yeah, you still ruined a villain and made a kind of crappy protagonist out of it, but like it wasn't. I'm not gonna boo it. Like it's fine. It's a different story, so it justifies its own existence there.
It does.
And the fact that I like the sequel better than the original, I guess gives it like a little bit of credit for at least making a sequel, at least. But I don't want there to be a third.
No, please no.
And this brings us back up to date in 2019, the first Disney Plus live-action adaptation, Lady and the Tramp, which I did not see as a kid, as I realized watching the original again. I was like, oh, I never actually saw this when I was a kid. So I saw both of them for the first time, like back-to-back days. And it was interesting. Once again, we have some changes in the live action to make it not racist, which is a plus. They went a little bit overboard by having a white man and a black woman be married in the antebellum South, which is illegal at that time. So Disney is like, not only did we get rid of the racist Siamese song, we also went back in time and fixed their racism. Look at us. Look at us. Disney Plus, baby. $10 a month. Let's get it. It's like, I mean,
guys, that it was fine as it was. That one was fine as it was, especially because now you're just kind of implying that a mixed child is running around in those times, and like, it's even worse.
Yeah, and they made the Scotty a female instead of a male, which like you didn't need to do that, but it was also kind of fine. I mean, obviously the Scotty in the original Lady and Tramp was just reused from Dalmatians, and has it's fucking Scottish. It's like, it's cool. We don't have to deal with that. That's always annoying. And then you have your typical dog catcher that will die before he fails at his job. It's like he will burn the world before he does not catch that dog. That's just fictional dog catchers, man.
He's there.
They will go to the ends of the earth. It's like fictional dog catchers are the most dedicated humans in the world at their job. No cap.
Tramp is Jean Valjean, and the dog catcher is Javert. That's how this works.
Yeah, I don't think they were going for a Les Mis. Because Lion King's just Hamlet. I don't think Lady and the Tramp, was Les Mis.
No, but that's the dynamic that they're going for. Of course they're not going for. I don't think Victor Hugo wrote Les Mis and was like, you know what would really suit this? Dogs.
Yeah, that was his dying wish.
Please make this into a movie.
And then make a live action adaptation. What does that mean? I don't know. Those words haven't been invented yet. And then he died. Yeah. So I guess it's kind of like Dumbo syndrome here, where it's like the live action kind of wins by default.
Yeah.
The spaghetti scene is kind of cute.
Very cute, and they did use rescue dogs, as I said earlier.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they use rescue dogs. Yeah.
They made a whole point of it, so it's really cute and it's really sweet.
Yeah,
it's really harmless. It's actually super harmless.
Yeah, and I didn't have to pay ticket to a movie theater to see it. I was just like, all right, well, I've finished The Mandalorian. What else is on this thing? Oh, Lady and Tramp? Yeah, all right. So yeah, those are all the live actions that have already happened. And now, let's talk about the upcoming live actions, which there is way more of than what has already happened. And
the list is ever expanding.
Every week there's a new one.
Every time you think that they're kind of done for a while, you know, like there's a big rush of them adding more to the list, and you're like, okay, cool, we've settled down. Then they're like, here's 5 more, and you're like, oh god.
We have 2 coming up. Mulan, which was the reason that we made this podcast in the first place, because we were getting ready for Mulan to come out, and then obviously, you know, the virus thing happened, and then we have Cruella next year, and then we have 15 movies TBA. With let's see, 1, 2, 3, at least 3 of them, 4 of them being Disney Plus. The rest of them being theatrical. So we'd have...
You could still pretty much do like 3 a year, because you know that they're going to add more to the list.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've seen their schedule.
At least 2. Yeah. If not 3 a year.
Yeah, so 2019 had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you count Lady and the Tramp. And then 2018 had 1, 2017 had 1, 2016 had 2, 2015 had 1, 2014 had 1. And then and that's kind of like when it started. It's Maleficent kind of started it, because like you had 201s and then you had an Alice, and 4 years later they started kicking it into high gear. So Mulan we should be talking about it, but it's not going to come out until at the earliest July 24th. I wouldn't be surprised if that got pushed back again. Especially since its main target for making money is going to be the Chinese market, because they're looking for a more historical, less racist look at the old epic.
Which is why it has such potential, because it's not even it's a perspective shift, but it's not a character perspective shift.
Right.
It's more of a historical perspective shift of, like, you know, going from what if we take inspiration from the original poem myth, and then to, okay, but we're actually gonna like properly go with it this time.
Yeah.
And just being like plucked out little bits and pieces in the original, and then this one they're like, no, we're actually just gonna do it properly.
Yeah. And to be clear, there are arguments about like when the actual tale of Mulan originated, like in like what decade, and like what her surname was, and like there, none of that really matters for like this adaptation, and like it's just a poem, so like there's not a ton of source material to go off of, but they have the blueprint that will seem somewhat familiar. But obviously there's going to be no Mushu, there's going to be no Chang, there's no music. And there's the potential for it, and the American and Chinese audiences are looking forward to it. There are some people that are really mad that the hot Asian boyfriend isn't in it, and there are people mad that the 2 awesome songs aren't in it. But
I will miss the music. I at least want to hear one or both of them as leitmotifs, or as the themes.
I think we definitely will. We will get those motifs. Yeah, we'll probably get that for Reflection. Will be my guess.
Let's just get Reflection as a leitmotif the entire movie. Like they just keep doing what they did with Aladdin.
That could be.
It's just like, here's the same leitmotif. It's just been slightly changed.
Yeah. So, I mean, it had its premiere because it was gonna come out. It had its premiere, so like people have seen it. Very few people, only a couple hundred people have seen it. So like we're gonna have to wait and see, but we're optimistic. I think it already justifies its own existence because it's going for more accurate, and it doesn't have a lot of the other characters from the animated, and it also kind of lets the animated live on its own because it's its own little awesome movie.
Yep.
Because there's outside of like the Star Wars special editions, there are 2 movies I remember waiting in line for: Mulan and Hercules. Waiting a long time, super psyched. There's like freaking window paint of the characters, and just like getting ready and watch it, and it's awesome, and I love it, and the music's cool, and the characters are awesome, and it's great. Nothing is going to replace that Mulan. This is a different Mulan, live action, Disney, more combat focused, and will have its own awesome characters and story, hopefully, and different villains, obviously. So we're gonna have to wait and see for that one. At least we know something about that one. After that, we know next to jack shit. We know Cruella is coming out May 28th, 2021, supposedly. That could change, obviously. And Emma Stone is going to be Cruella. That's literally everything we know.
With Glenn Close as executive producer.
Yeah.
That's it.
We don't know what direction they're going to take. Do you have, like, any thoughts? We're going to see, like, some origin story or some redemption story where she's the hero and the puppies are the villains? Like, I don't know where the fuck they go from there.
I think they said it's supposed to be focusing on her origins. I think there has been something said that it's more of a prequel.
Are there Dalmatians in it at all then? Because, like...
I don't know. It might just be about her being a fur collector heiress who's just like, I have a shit ton of money and I love me some fur.
And I'll pay
It's
someone
also
to...
Alonzo for some reason.
And I'll pay someone to kill a tiger in the zoo. I have no idea what they're gonna do with that.
Is that you?
I have no idea what they're gonna do.
No,
it's gonna be the first Disney live adaptation for the third time of one movie. It's gonna be the third Dalmatian live action. So take that, Alice in Wonderland. This one's gonna have 3. So, like, I really like Emma Stone. I'm not familiar with the director Craig Gillespie's work. It has a shit ton of screenwriters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screenwriters. Always a great sign. Always a great sign.
That's not a good sign. Oh boy. That movie is clearly in development hell.
Okay, he made I, Tonya and The Finest Hours.
I haven't seen either of those.
I also Fright Night, $1 Million Arm, Lars and the Real Girl. I haven't seen any of these.
Nope.
Yeah. So yeah.
But we'll see though.
Well,
because obviously it's going to be different.
Yeah,
either way.
We'll have an idea once we get a trailer. We'll have an idea of where it's going to go, and then we can form our opinion. I think it's way too early right now.
Yep.
So once we get an idea of what direction they're going to go, we're like, oh, you know what? That's actually really clever. I didn't think of that. Or really, that's what you're doing? The fuck? It's going to be one of those. It has to be.
Yep.
And going down the list, we have Peter Pan and Wendy, which is the original title of the original book, I believe.
Yes, it is. Should be at least better by default than the original.
Yeah, but we've seen live action Peter Pan's fail so many times. So many times.
Nobody understands why Hook worked, and that's the problem.
No, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Hook should not have worked. It doesn't make sense.
Nope.
You got Steven Spielberg, and you got Robin Williams to play a grown-up, like, businessman Peter Pan, with the set designer of Cats. And it fucking worked! Like, are you shitting me?
Like, Wendy is old and she raised Peter.
And she's Julia Roberts.
She still kind of likes him.
And she becomes...
Julia Roberts is Tinkerbell.
And she gets real sized. And then, of course, you have Dante Basco giving every woman as their first sexual awakening.
Rufy! Oh!
Rufy! Oh! Rufy! Oh! Rufy! Oh! Fuck. Are they going to put it in Rufio? That is the question. The answer is no, and it's sad.
No. So, yeah, we will be better by default, but that's not particularly saying...
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have some Native American racism. I think that's safe to say at this point. I guess I liked it as a kid. I definitely watched it a lot, more so than Jungle Book or Dumbo.
Tintin Neverland was always much better than the original.
Yeah, they can't go from the source material because that shit's fucked up. Where Peter Pan is actually the villain. He kills kids, and he's controlling and manipulative of the kids. And
if you want to see that, then go watch Once Upon a Time because they did it that way, and it's messed up already, so it doesn't really matter that they added in the messed up version of Peter Pan. So if you want messed up Peter Pan, go watch Once Upon a
Yeah.
Time. If you want toned down Peter Pan, then watch any of the normal Disney versions.
If they go for a shot-for-shot remake style, I think it's going to be more like Dumbo, where it's like they're going to have most of the things in the original, but it's like it's also mostly going to be other stuff. I feel like that's kind of because like you can't obviously have the racism or the kids, you know, doing drugs, and
it would probably focus on them being more in Neverland and actually exploring Neverland rather than the kind of flyby that they do where he's just like, here's the island, here's some mermaids that are gonna try and kill you. Moving on.
Yeah, there's Tiger Lily, and yeah, watch out, she'll get you.
Here's the Skull Cave. Oh, watch out for Hook. He has a sword and he wants to murder you. It's all good. Moving on.
Yeah, you're gonna be our mom. You're the only woman, so you're gonna be all our moms. And
but now the wife in this scenario.
and then oh god, the original source material is just
she wants
nightmare.
a divorce and he gets very upset.
Yeah, and then he comes back and like takes her daughter, and it's fucked up.
Yes.
And
it is.
Like the only thing that the
interesting.
original has from the book is like the whole shadow thing in the beginning. Like that's the only thing that's the same.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but it's again, we kind of need a trailer just to kind of be like, you know, what way are they gonna try and go about this one?
Because what was
it has to differ from what's come before, but it also like
and I think it will. I didn't see the one that used Clockwork by Coldplay in the trailer. I didn't see that one with the young kid. It was like 2004 or some shit.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Some blonde kid.
We watched that one. That one is on. That was at least it was on New Zealand Netflix. So I rewatched that one. It is so weird.
Yeah.
It is so weird, and it clearly tried to do a little bit of the Hook thing, but again, nobody gets Hook. So like, it's just kind of like, okay, alrighty.
Yeah, that's alrighty. Like. Dustin Hoffman's portrayal of Hook is so weird, but it just fucking works. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't have, but it did. And then you got Glenn Close going in the boombox, and then fucking Smee Rufio.
Yeah,
but
okay. Anyway,
that's a long ass movie too. Hook is a long fucking movie, and weird. It's the only good live action Peter Pan, and it shouldn't have been. And then there's Pan with fucking. It's just like, I'm Captain James Hook, and I'm gonna be your friend, Peter, and fucking Blackbeard, played by Wolverine, Hugh the hugest of the Jackmans. It's like, you've been sent here to kill me, Peter, and it's so weird. It's like he's mining for fairy dust to stay alive or something. I don't fucking know. That was a dumb movie. All right, so. We'll see. I doubt it's going to be good. I'm going out on the record right now.
I also have my doubts. We're pressing X to doubt on this one, but we'll see.
The Little Mermaid, which has been in production hell for so long. Originally, it was going to be Chloe Grace Moretz as Ariel, but then she retired from acting, and that just shut down the project for like 8 years. And now they have their new Ariel, and they have a director. You got
they've done stuff for it as well because she was talking about it in one of the interviews that I was watching the other week. So she said that it was a really nice energy on set and that she really liked working with everybody. So clearly they had at least done some stuff, if not all of it, before.
Yeah.
All this, everything had to wind down and shut down.
Although
so it's at least out of that kind of production hell, where they at least have done some stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Obviously, they're writing stuff right now. Lin-Manuel Miranda is one of the producers. The director, Rob Marshall, he's the one who did Mary Poppins Returns and Into the Woods. So
I think if they use more music from Chloe and Halle, it'll be fine because I like their music and they've done stuff that I think would lend well to what they're doing right now with The Little Mermaid, and I believe they actually have done at least a song because they dodged the question and were like, "Ooh, who knows about it?"
They haven't cast Eric, right?
Actually, I think they have.
They have. Fuck.
I think they have. I don't know if he's listed anywhere, but I think
I've heard.
I think she was hinting at that she's worked with him already. So
I've heard conflicting rumors. So
Maybe they haven't, but like I think maybe they might have. But yeah, it did because they're taking somebody who is a musician, but she's done acting stuff.
yes,
So
she's in
she has brownish.
brown.
Brownish.
Brownish.
It's the blackish.
Yeah, spin-off Blackish.
So she has
sang
some experience
on the Disney quarantine sing-along things.
She did. Her and her sister sang with Tiana.
Yes.
With Anika Nonoro.
That's right.
So I think if she and her sister are involved with the music, then I think that'll help it pan out better. Because she's the one kind of going through it and doing it. Because they brought in a musician. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will. But I think if they're smart about it, then they'll use the fact that they have somebody who is both an actress and a singer literally to their advantage. Rather than just being like, it's fine.
Yeah, I've heard that Melissa McCarthy is supposedly Ursula. I don't know if that's...
Yep, she's been slated as Ursula since like nearly the beginning.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing that I've heard. I don't like that. Some people are mad that it's not a man, even though it never was a man. The cartoon model was based off of a drag queen, but it was still voiced by a woman. So it's like you kind of have, your choice of where you want to go with the character. I just think Melissa McCarthy is just the wrong choice, quite honestly.
I agree. Like I have nothing against her at all.
No, she's fucking hilarious.
I just don't think I just don't think that she's right for this particular role. I wouldn't have been mad either way, even if they went with a guy. I would have been like, yeah, whatever, okay. It's just more that I don't think Melissa McCarthy is the right choice.
Yeah.
Better what?
Yeah, personally, for me, I don't feel like we should cast a man in a woman's role.
No, it's not necessarily it should be this. It's just more of like I wouldn't have minded. It's just more the current choice is like.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. I don't know what they're gonna do with Sebastian. I don't know how they handle Flounder. Flounder's he's the best. He's my best man at my wedding is Flounder.
I can't wait to see how they handle Sebastian.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. They're gonna have to go somewhere on it because we gotta get under the sea. I kind of wonder what they're gonna do with the audio underwater. Yeah. It's like, did you see Aquaman, the Jason Momoa Aquaman movie?
I did.
The way that they kind of had the voice was kind of like watery.
Yeah, don't do it.
It's like I get it, I understand it. Also, no, please.
No, nuh-uh. If somebody's further away and they're coming closer to the person that's speaking, then you could do it because then you could almost do it as more of like like a distance thing.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just sound like Jiminy Cricket, fucking drowning.
Yes. So I would only use it like really selectively would be how I would do it. I would just be like, if that person's coming from further away and they're like talking to you and then as they get closer, they get clearer, that would be fine. If you're going to constantly have everybody, nah.
Yeah. And hopefully they make Eric a better character, and I doubt they'll dig anywhere near the source material. Because that's just a tragedy. She just dissolves into foam.
Once again, a Disney tone down.
Yeah. Constantly in pain, dies at the end. Yeah. But also, Ursula is like not even really a villain in the actual book.
She's just hanging out.
Yeah, she's just like, yeah, sure, it's going to be super painful, and you're not going to, have your voice, but, go for it. And then she's just never seen her come again.
She fully explains the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
It's fully on Ariel in the original.
Yeah, she doesn't try to backstab her by becoming another woman that steals her love. It's like, that's actually just another woman from another kingdom that he's betrothed to. And he's just, Prince Eric is I don't even know if he's called Prince Eric in the book, but he is a shithead in the book.
He's pretty dense. He's just
stringing her along forever.
Yep. He's just like, yeah, I'm supposed to be getting married to, the fiance, but like, there's a hot little side piece.
Yeah, my little servant girl.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess I still have to get married properly. Oh, wait did the
you're gonna die even though your sisters gave up everything just to give you another chance? Yeah, turn into foam. It's cool. Okay.
Unfortunately.
Jungle Book sequel. No, thanks. Moving on.
Thank you.
No, thanks.
Moving on.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. This is weird. This is my Dumbo moment where it's like, nobody actually wants this. Nobody actually wants this, Disney. No one gives a hot shit about Snow White. We know that you really care about it because, like, it was your first big thing, and anytime your studio was in trouble, you just re-released it in theaters, and you're like, oh no, is VHS gonna work out? I don't know. Okay, let's try Snow White, and then sold 1 trillion copies. I'm like, all right, yeah, here we go. It's over. Snow White's over. Stop trying to make it a thing. No one gives a shit.
I only want this as a end of line Disney. I want this as the snake eating its own tail. That it starts with Snow White and it ends with Snow White. That's the only time I want to see it. I don't want to see it any time before that.
We tried with Kristen Stewart looking really smoking hot in some knight armor, and it was just okay. Mm-hmm. We don't need to see a live-action Disney version where Coma Girl just gets by being pretty. Huntsman's gonna kill her. Oh no, I'm silent and pretty, and that gets her through. The dwarves like, let's kill her. Oh wait, she's passed out and pretty, and then the prince is like, oh man, this chick has a glass coffin because they just wanted to look at the dead lady the whole time. It's like, oh man, I really want to fucking kiss this corpse. This is awesome. And then so. Worst princess in my book, and worst of the princess movies, and we don't need to see weird Tweedledum style CGI dwarves. We don't need that nightmare. We just don't need it.
Nope.
Don't need
it. I think we should just appreciate the original animation and appreciate the animation in all of itself.
Yeah.
For what it was and what it started, and that's where that should end.
Yeah, just appreciate that they used makeup in actual animation instead of just regular animation. Looks weird. Fucking.
It changed the scope of what we know of for animation as a form as well. So
it's the first movie. We give it a break. We give it a break. It's the first animated movie, but we're done. We're done with it. Fucking Pinocchio. Robert Zemeckis. They are trying to get Tom Hanks to be Geppetto. It's like
Tom Hanks should not be forced to carry the burden of that entire film.
I have expressed many times how much of a shit story Pinocchio is. It's a garbage film. If you want to read the original Italian newspaper that shit came from, that's the worst story ever. It was about a guy who hated children and wanted to punish them, and he kills him in the end. He gets hanged and he dies. Yep. And then they're like, oh, but it's popular. Bring it back. Don't have him die. And he was like, fine, but I'm going to torture him even more because fuck kids. Mm-hmm. And then Disney made it, and it made no fucking sense. And then fucking Drew Carey tried with fucking Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And that was, whoa. And it can't be done.
I love that film because it's so weird. It's almost like if Hook hadn't worked.
Yeah.
For Pinocchio. Where it's like, that film is so bad, but like I love it in like a trashy way, where I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. It's so hilarious.
It's impossible for any Pinocchio that they come up with to not be nightmare fuel. It's just impossible. It can't be done. That story cannot be made well. I don't care if you have the greatest living actor, Tom Hanks, being Geppetto and not make him into this weird, fucked up little Geppettophile, making all these weird ass clocks where it's always ass slap a clock, and it's fucking forever fish, and it's forever kitten cat, and Tom Hanks can't do that. He's God among men. He cannot pull that off. If he can't do it, nobody can. Don't make the movie. Dear God, please no.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Sword in the Stone. Fucking what? Sword in the Stone.
Automatically going to be better by default.
It can't be worse.
Because nothing happens.
It's like I kind of want it because it'll be Disney Plus. That's one of the Disney Plus ones, and it can't be worse than the original. The original Sword in the Stone is one of the 3 worst animated Disney films ever. Because here's the entire story. You ready for it? If anyone who hasn't heard it, Merlin the wizard is like, hey, some important kid's going to drop by in my house, and we're going to have tea, and I'm going to teach him magic. And then he does show up, and he's like, I'm going to teach you magic. And the kid's like, cool, I want to be important. And he turns them into 3 different animals, almost dies every time, and then he squires for a night, accidentally pulls the sword from a stone, and becomes king. That's the entire movie, and I didn't skip anything. It can't be worse than that. It legit can't be worse than that.
It'll be very interesting to see who they cast as Merlin. That's about it. This as far as the fort's extent.
You're right.
It'll have to be it's probably going to be a lot more of a delve into the Arthurian legend and probably more of a sword in the stone as it is Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table,
Yeah.
which wasn't even a connected thing,
Nope.
you know, because Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table are completely separate stories, as is Excalibur. But they'll probably do
Yeah.
it more
As is the Holy
you know,
Grail.
Arthur and Excalibur. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So they'll probably try and do it more as a, you know, more like Merlin the TV show, but like, but for Arthur himself.
I think
know?
it won't be at all, simply because it's on Disney Plus. So they're just gonna go like,
This is
we're
true,
just gonna
but
do
it
we're just
also
gonna
could be
do
low
what we
budget
always
version.
what we did. We're just gonna like, oh, he's gonna turn into a bird, and that'll be longer than it was in the cartoon.
No, I don't want that. I'd rather he turns into the animals and he does something with it. Like it's for a purpose. He's going and he's getting parts of Excalibur. He's going and he's getting parts of something else. He's going and he's doing this for a particular reason. If he's still gonna have to turn into those bullshit animals for the bullshit lessons in which he learns nothing, because he doesn't learn how to turn himself into those things. He's just turned into them.
No need to worry.
He just has to deal.
It is directed by the director and writer of 28 Weeks Later.
Okay, well, moving on.
He's made
Next.
3 movies! He's made 3 movies! Intacto, 28 Weeks Later, and Intruders. Fucking, come on. Whatever. Throw Disney Plus money at it. Robin Hood, Disney Plus. This I'm okay with.
Yeah.
This one I'm kind of okay with.
Yeah.
I rewatched the original. I didn't really like it as a kid. I think I enjoyed it more as an adult. Obviously, the ship that launched the 1,000 furries. We get that. It's important from an societal standpoint. I think the original isn't that great, so the live action could make it pretty decent. And obviously it's not. They're not going to go Lion King levels of animation because it's just a Disney Plus thing. But Lady and the Tramp Disney Plus animation was pretty decent. It was better than any of like the animal movies that I grew up watching by miles. So I don't have a problem with Robin Hood, honestly.
I'm good.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah. So don't really know. That's a rather newly announced one within the last month. Yeah, it's one of like the 5 that's been announced in the last month. It's a second time director. He did Blind Spotting in 2018. Before that, he made Mexican-American music videos and commercials. Mm-hmm. So, all right, have at it, Haas.
That's like, I do like the aspect of Disney Plus, which is like the really experimental.
Yeah.
Direct style. Like, that's fine.
And
that's fine.
Another Disney Plus we have, which is the one that makes the least sense, is the Aladdin spin-off based off of the one white guy in the movie. That's on screen for 30 seconds. Prince Araman or Arans or Prince Arian. Prince White Guy. Why the fuck is he getting a movie? Are you shitting me? I'd rather see a movie about carpet. Fucking carpet's a true G. Who the fuck? What movie we're gonna make with this guy?
We have to talk about how, we have to give him backstory because, in the original, he was just that guy that had his ass bitten by a Rush.
Yeah, and he had heart prints boxers, which makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense. But now,
Prince Anders. I knew it started with an A.
Yes, there you go. But now he's a person.
What's the story? What's his story? Why are we supposed to care?
It's his side of the story, all right? You have to have his side of the story, all right? He was just coming in here as he was probably told to do, all right? Just trying to make sure the princess knew he was available. Can't even do this.
I hope it doesn't actually happen. If it does, I'll still watch it because it's Disney Plus and I already have it. And I can complain about it in another podcast. So the last of the Disney Plus ones that are TBA is the one I'm most worried about, Lilo and Stitch. It's the most recent movie that is talked about here, 2002. The most recent one before that would be Mulan, 98.
98, yeah.
Yeah, so, and everything else is much older.
They need to have learnt the lesson from Sonic.
Yeah.
And that is the key thing, is absolutely, did they learn the lesson from Sonic?
Yes. Also, I love Roger Craig Smith and his voice work as Sonic. I absolutely adore Ben Schwartz, and I love everything he's in, and he did amazing as Sonic. But if you do Lilo and Stitch, it's Chris Sanders or get the fuck out. Get the fuck out if it's not Chris Sanders. It has to be my boy.
Listen, if they bothered to bring back Jim Cummings for Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and Christopher Robin, then there's no reason not to do Chris Sanders.
Yeah, if they go for like some comedian or something, just like, and starring as Stitch, this dude from SNL.
Especially because it's going to Disney Plus, so they're not going to throw Lion King levels of money at it for big money, big voice actor. So it's like, it makes sense to just get Chris Sanders and be consistent.
I've met Chris Sanders on multiple occasions. He's a very lovely man, very generous with his time. Really loves Stitch. He's always super into it. He has always done any Stitch recording that Disney has asked, so I think he would reprise the role if he believed in what the vision was. And with Disney and it's Disney Plus, their benchmark for quality is higher than it has been in times past. I will give them that. So they will try. They're not just throwing direct to VHS money at this.
No.
So I'm worried because a CGI Stitch could be really fucked up. It could be fucked up. I don't know how old Lilo is going to be. And obviously our voice actor of Jamba, as well as Cogsworth, has passed away in the past year. And we can't get him back. So I think you would want to kind of go with maybe a different story. Maybe still with the whole broken family thing. But it could look and be really weird. And it could be shit. But Lilo and Stitch, as all the Karens on the internet know, my entire personality is based off of this movie from 2002. And if they fuck it up at Disney Plus, my life will be ruined. No, it'll be fine. It's just odd. It's just odd that they would choose that. But hey, if they want to give Lilo and Stitch love, I'll watch it.
Assuming it is love.
Yep. It's like, I go to Disneyland, they have a new Stitch shirt, I buy the new Stitch shirt. So, there we go. Untitled Aladdin sequel. Supposedly bringing back everybody. I don't know how you bring Genie back in the fold because he's not a genie anymore. He's got to have a human name, I would think. Also, he's boating with his family. So, but
yeah, it depends on
you could bring Jafar back. That's obvious.
Yeah, it depends on how long after the original is supposed to be set.
Yeah,
is it before that they've gone off to go have kids? Are they just married?
Yeah, they could do that.
And to Genie and his wife, are they just married, or are they gone and it's more of Aladdin trying to figure out how to deal with going back to having no genie around, and it's are they going to kind of dip into the stuff that they did with the sequel movies, or are they just kind of whatever bullshit that they want?
I could see them skipping Return of Jafar and just go straight to King of Thieves.
King of Thieves, yeah.
They could definitely do that if they don't want to have Jafar in it. But I don't know. It's weird. Hey, a live action sequel could be better than some of the direct-to-VHS sequels that we got, even though those were some of the better ones. It's possible, but it's gonna be odd for them to go about that, especially with how they're handling Genie. There's also rumors about a Genie prequel thing where it's the Genies and it's a bunch of Genies. It's what? I don't know. That's a yikes from me, fam.
I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah. Hunchback, Notre Dame. Josh Gad's a producer. That's the only thing I gotta say about that. I love me some Josh Gad. That's, dude, walking a weird line there. Because I mean, because
Incredibly weird line.
it's like, okay, Quasimodo's still got to be Quasimodo, right? And obviously you're gonna CG that, but like how? And also, okay, no.
Still do it with prosthetics though. That's still entirely
Yes,
doable.
I absolutely agree.
That, to be
I
honest.
agree. I don't expect it.
I don't expect it either. I would just prefer. It's really what they should do, because then you wouldn't have to worry about the quality of the effects. Yeah, you would have to deal with the makeup every day, and I wouldn't envy that. But it would be a lot more consistent in terms of, well, you don't have to then CGI on, like the weird.
I think it's possible. I think it's feasible. If there's anyone that they wouldn't go CG with out of all these, I think it would be Quasimodo. But I'm not going to put $1 on it whatsoever. I don't know what they do with Phoebus and Esmeralda. What do they do with Frollo? Hellfire's a hell of a song, but are you gonna?
We're not gonna get it.
Are you gonna bring that back? I don't know.
We're not gonna get it. They're not gonna bring back. You know what? This is actually the perfect time to use Jeremy Irons, because now he's like older, and he fits it. He fits the Frollo look.
God, that
this is the time.
I'm gonna be now. It's a shit movie if it's not Jeremy Irons. You put that in my head.
Now because literally now he is like a much older man.
He'd be perfect.
He's perfect now, and you'd still get to keep.
He's got the gray hair. He's got the wrinkles.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
And he has a presence when he carries himself. So
absolutely
you have correct person, and it's the original person.
God damn.
Once again.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
That's gonna be upsetting.
Yeah. You've already upsetted me because I know they're not gonna hire him. I'm already upset.
See, I upset myself. With that same concept. It's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, and none of these have any directors linked to them from Aladdin, Lilo, and Hunchback, as well as the rest of them. Rose Red. They're already
Snow White and Rose Red.
They're already planning their sequel to their movie that's not out yet. Not always a good sign.
It's not a sequel. It won't be a sequel. Snow White and Rose Red is an entirely different fairy tale.
I don't see Disney going that direction. That's all I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah, well, it's an entirely separate thing. From the original Grimm or Hans Christian, whichever one it was, it's entirely separate. It is about these two girls who are living out in the woods, and they both meet enchanted princes. And one's like a bear, and I think one's a swan, and they have like the pelts, and they turn back into them. And they have to try and like break that curse or whatever the hell's going on with that. It's entirely different. And if they're calling it Rose Red in the first place, then I think that they actually are going to do properly as the original. They might instead tie it in with Snow White is actually the original Snow White, and Rose Red is just the one going through the Snow White Rose Red story. They might do it like that and do it a sequel in that distantly related regard, but it isn't entirely.
I'm telling you, that's what they're going to do. They're going to pull a fusion, just like the Red Queen and the Queen of Hearts. They're just going to fuse it. They're going to fuse it. I'm telling you right now. And then when we make our next podcast in like 5 years, I'm going to tell you I told you so.
Well, that doesn't necessarily break anything, because Snow White doesn't really determine, how many kingdoms are out there in the world. There's only this castle that she starts in, and then the absolutely fake the cloud castle that Prince Charming comes from. So there's nothing to say that there isn't extra kingdoms or anything like that. So it's not unfeasible. It is just more of like, as a source and as a concept, Snow White and Rose Red is entirely different. So yeah, they'd have to do that if they wanted to make them connected. Or they might just be like, nah, it's just Rose Red. Fuck Snow White. It's just this girl that falls in love with this prince, and he's cursed to turn into a bear.
You know when we'll know? We'll know how well Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs does in the box office. That's when we'll know. Yeah. That's when we'll know.
Yep. You'll watch Rose Red go into production hell because they suddenly need to change some things for no
or
reason
they get rid of
whatsoever.
it, or they just pan it, they just bin it,
or they pan it,
yeah.
Or they suddenly announce that it is absolutely connected on purpose.
Yeah.
One of those will happen. We'll see.
Bambi.
Uh,
Live action Bambi, with all the humans.
mhm.
Theatrical, so...
Well, we figured out how it's going to work in between Jungle Book and Lion King, and
Yeah. I did not like Bambi as a kid. I watched the Thumper parts and then I just turned it off. Not because I give a shit about Bambi's mom. I don't care. I don't give a shit about Bambi's mom. She could die a million times. I don't care. Mufasa, death didn't even make me sad as a kid. Bambi's mom, I don't even care. I was all about Thumper. Thumper is the star of Bambi. Everyone else is just bullshit in the background.
I like those little sections, and that's it. Like, I don't really like anything else in that film.
Yeah. So live action, I go ahead. I guess I don't care. It's gonna be a shot for shot, no question, and it's not gonna be great, and probably better than the original by default because it's like not as boring or stupid. That is my guess.
Well, it'll be interesting as well if they decide to add in a bit more of the in between with Bambi being raised by the dad. Like how we watched Bambi too.
Yes, for those of you wondering, our next podcast will be me talking to Kiri about having watched all the directed VHS and DVD sequels to classic Disney movies. And I started with Bambi 2.
For the first time, for the most part, and I get to rewatch.
Yeah, I saw King of Thieves, I saw Return of Jafar, I saw Lion King 1.5, and I saw Belle's Enchanted Christmas. That was it.
And I saw like all of them except maybe one.
I didn't know like 3 of these existed even. I didn't know there was a Lady and the Tramp sequel.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay. Hercules. This one was the newest
one?
The newest announced one.
This is gonna be a mess.
Everyone was all up on Twitter casting Ariana Grande as Meg.
Tom Holland as Hercules, don't forget.
I saw someone put the guy who played the Winklevoss twins. The Social Network. What the fuck's his name? I can't remember. But that'd be a very difficult casting for Hercules because in the original animated you have a young Hercules and then you have the older Hercules, but he's still young Hercules because like I believe in the original animated he's
like 19 and then he goes to like 24.
No, I don't even think he's that old. He goes from like 14 to 19 or something like that.
No, you're right. Yeah.
It's he's like way younger than you think he is.
Yeah.
So it's weird. Oh man, darn, it's not on there. It's not on the original 1997 Wikipedia, but the music in Hercules is really good. There's not a lot of it, but I mean, I Can Go the Distance is amazing. I Won't Say I'm in Love is incredible and very unique. And
Zero to Hero.
Zero to Hero, right? That's just a montage song. I don't think we'll be getting that. A lot of people are saying we won't even get the gospel ladies. A lot of people had a problem with that, apparently, having them in the original at all.
Yeah, well, it's more that they were like, well, why is it gospel music? And it's like, yeah, this is true, but also, it's a good movie, shut up. Yeah, it's more like, well, did you really want them to try and fake doing classical Greek or even Roman choir music? Did you really want them to fake that? Because I mean, they faked it with Brother Bear. It's Hungarian singers, so like, do you really want that?
Yeah. You want some Hungarian throat singing? Yeah, I'll get right on that.
So it's like, well, at least gospel music is really easy to do. There's no like faking it. It's either gospel music or it's not. But now that it's there, if you change it from go away from gospel music, that's a bit of a problem.
So
they're in a little bit more of a corner here.
Yes, they are definitely in a corner, but you can not have them and still have the 2 best songs in the movie in it.
You can. You absolutely can. You just have to change the framing because the muses are the entire framing of the
Yes.
story.
I think this one's really hard to cast. I think it's really hard to cast because Hercules' is age and his build, and like, okay, they're going to use the same actor, obviously, if they're going to show a younger...
De-aging technology. Let's go. Horrible de-aging.
I think what they would just go with the Captain America route, and they'll take an already buff dude and make him look weaker and smaller, and then they'll show him actually buff and stuff. Or they'll just hide it with clothing, right? Like, he'll just be in like a smock and then he's in like ripped armor. So I think that's hard to cast. Meg, you want, if you're gonna give her the song, you're gonna have to have someone who can sing.
Yes. You also need somebody that can turn around and also be the snappy,
yes, you need the sass.
Streetwise.
You
girl.
can't have her just be the pretty face.
Tall.
You have to have her be Megara.
Yeah, which is the problem with casting Ariana Grande, in my opinion, is that she's too soft for the personality and the character of Meg. The voice, fine.
Yeah.
But the personality and the acting, the other half of it.
And another one, super duper hard for many reasons, is Hades.
Yeah.
You have...
Listen, we have so many examples of it not working.
Yeah. That's like, how are you going to animate that without making it look weird or ridiculous? Who do you
go Once Upon a Time or Descendants? And they both look horrible.
And who do you go for? Because like James Woods is Hades because like his used car salesman style of Hades is they revamped.
That was his.
They revamped the character because they originally had somebody else and they revamped it because of him.
Yep.
And he has always done Hades whenever they've needed Hades for anything. He's always done it. He's also a very problematic, bad person in real life. And not popular. It's like, when's the last time he's been in a movie? It's like the last thing I remember him in is Family Guy playing himself. So like, it's very weird for an animation standpoint and the casting standpoint, and as well as the original Hades being so good, regardless of what you think of James Woods. And I don't think much of him as a human being. I'm not a fan of him, but his Hades, that's great. It is.
I feel like we're gonna see Hercules get stuck in production hell for a really long time.
I'm gonna have to.
And I think some of the preceding ones will probably also either extend the production hell or help figure it out a little bit.
Oh, this is interesting. The screenwriter for the Hercules movie, best known for writing Doom 2005, the one with The Rock, The Expendables, The Expendables 2, The Expendables 3, wait for it, the new Wonder Woman movie that comes out this year, and then a Mortal Kombat movie that comes out next year, which I didn't know was a thing, and Shang-Chi and the Legend of 10 Rings, which is a Marvel movie that is supposedly coming out next year. He also rewrote Ant-Man after they fired what's his face, the guy who did Scott Pilgrim. And he was hired to write Zombieland Double Tap, which was not as good as the first. So interesting.
Oh boy. All right. Well, like I said, get ready for production hell on this one as well.
Yeah, and he's also writing the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So this dude's all over the map.
He is all over the map.
That is a weird resume. Okay, so, not bad. And last but not least, Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. Jon Favreau again.
I don't like that they're calling it like the original. That's very upsetting.
Yeah. I say, leave it alone. You've done enough? You've done enough with Lion King?
It's gonna be... Simba's Pride is based upon Romeo and Juliet, so I really don't I don't need the stiffness while they're talking to each other, because it's only going to be like Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. Although
But with better writing.
wait for it. Let me sell you here. Okay, so we got Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet. I'll let those slide if for Lion King 3 we get Macbeth.
It's Timon and Pumbaa, but it's just Macbeth.
Oh, no. I changed my mind. Timon and Pumbaa being Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Yes, that's what I want. That's what I want. You're welcome, Disney. I know you're watching this podcast with 12 views. I know you're watching. And that's it. That's all of it, except for the other possible live action projects such as Tinkerbell with Reese Witherspoon playing Tinkerbell, and the Prince Charming spin-off titled Charming, and the prequel of Aladdin titled Genies. I'm going to go with no, please no, and dear God no on those. But you know what? All of the live actions that they've made thus far cost $1.75 billion, and they've made $9.1 billion. So nothing we say matters.
Nope. Profitable.
Alice in Wonderland made $1 billion. Beauty and the Beast made $1.2 billion. Aladdin made $1 billion. Lion King made $1.6 billion. So guess what, folks? They're coming. They won't stop coming, and 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 they... I'm just gonna wait. We'll come back in the year 2035 when we get a live action Bolt remake and meet the Robinsons.
No, never touch that. Leave that one alone.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, we have to do a watch night.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it, everybody. We did it. We covered them all. We speculated. We told you what we thought. And we will tell you again when the rest of these come out.
Yeah, when they announce another 5 next week. Listen, we did our job.
We can't keep doing this. We can't keep postponing this. We're like, Mulan's going to come out. We're going to do it. It's like, no, they just announced this. They just announced this. And, did we talk about the Kingdom Hearts one?
Oh, okay. So it's supposed to be a CG series.
Using the Unreal Engine developed by Square Enix?
Yes. Nomura isn't necessarily attached, but he might be. But Donald and Goofy should be voiced by Bill Farmer
and Tony Anselmo.
And Anselmo, yeah. They should be. It should be at least those two coming back for it. And because it's supposed to be CG, it should also technically also be Haley Joel Osment coming back.
It should be.
There's no reason if it's CG.
Did he not say that he would do Sora until he died? Did he not say that?
Did say.
Yeah. So.
He probably regrets it, to be honest, but he did say that.
I don't, Haley. I got a fan for life, man. Sora, fucking Roxas, you should have won you should have won Masked Singer, man. You should have won Masked Singer. You were way better than whatever her name was from that girl group in 1990.
Jesse McCall.
You were better, Jesse. We knew it was you. There was a crown on a heart. You couldn't fool us. You sounded like, I've never heard your music, but you sound like Roxas.
So we are also getting a Kingdom Hearts series. There is pretty much nothing on it except for that it should be, because it was like a little bit up in the air as to whether it was supposed to be live action or CG, but apparently at the moment the current thing is that it is in fact CG with the original Donald and Goofy voices,
and with Squeenix doing at least the pilot.
Yeah. So that should at least set the good tone for it, if anything else, but we'll see.
It's like, that's everything we can ask for, honestly.
Yeah, because Square Enix does do like manga and anime stuff, so it's not out of the water for them to just do this straight up, because they own Sora. So like, Disney owns Sora. Like, no matter, even though it's Nomura's character, it is still Disney's property.
And if Disney wants to make more Kingdom Hearts stuff, I will say yes every fucking time.
Yes. So it would make sense if they just gave it to Square Enix. I'm like, okay, that team that you have that does manga and anime, just go ahead and please make us this.
Make it great, right? Have it be successful, and sell the merch at Disneyland, for the love of God. There's nothing Kingdom Hearts at Disneyland. I need it.
And get ready because it will absolutely probably have important story shit for the next soccer games. Get bent if you don't watch the Disney Plus series. That's the way Kingdom Hearts goes.
Yeah, and don't forget to play the mobile game in between seasons of the Kingdom Hearts show, so you know
Dark Road has been delayed, so we can't learn about that guy that's already dead.
Oh, we need to stop before we make it this into the Kingdom Hearts podcast. All right, that's it, everybody. We did it. Thank you so much, Kiri, the resident Disney expert, for guiding me through these movies that I had not seen.
Thank you for having me on again.
Yes. And we'll be back, folks. You know we'll be back.